They want war. Crime babies looking for food. Starvation, the recipe. People subdued. When the people you trust got it in for you. Deceit is the word of the day and every clue. Don't let it go. It's from the days of old. Time is up, but some still do not know. Can I make up my mind? Is it worth the dime? Do I have to take a minute just to make it mine? Life's never fair, but don't listen to the TV. Go out and take a listen to the streets with the people in the slums and the homeless bums with degrees and degrees sitting under a tree. It's not easy in the world for the poor man, the one that brought you to reality. See, they don't want you to know about the black sheep. Leaving 7 rows to the 12 families all around the globe with an ancient code. Is it really asking a lot to say a death old? Cause we sitting on the earth looking back at extinct, and I'm standing on some ground that's about to sink. I ain't scared for a minute, I ain't about to blink, but I documented for the world what I see and think. Feel we on the call and I feel we on the break. All Congress gonna do is waste paper and ink. Vote or die, you voted and you'll die. You can have it both ways, can't say it's a lie. You can march all you want, but they playing you wrong. They only understand war, it's the same old song. They want war, all they really want is a war. Diversionary tactic to make the big score. The diamonds in the morning, you know they want more, but they wanna keep you low, so they manifest the war. War, all they really want is a war. Diversionary tactic to make the big score. The diamonds in the morning, you know they want more, but they wanna keep you low, so they manifest the war. Like a lotus coming out of the mud with colors, I create envy in those with power but jealous. I unify the poor with my song, the hell with the others. Descended the way they treat indigenous brothers, cause I understand we link forever. They try to hate us even though that we keep it together. I'm not talking about controlling the air or the weather. I'm talking about maintaining the truth, the high endeavor. A rebel drops bombs in the midst of trouble. The free world counterattack and now there's double. But nature gets the shit in a way to settle. If you stop the machines for a minute you might hear, but they won't cause the TVs whisper in the ear. And capitalism has eyes that don't fear, and they cloud up and get crazy and won't steer. And like an ab, it's hard to get an ass to listen. Living like this is like living in prison. It's hard to keep hope when you're living in prison. The spiritual thoughts, so yes, the mental prison. The outside, yes, it's got to get through. Something's gotta die, so something here can live. Your life is nothing if you got nothing to give. Keeping the spiritual, yes, disguised as religion. Controlling your mind, the mental prison. They want war, all they really want is a war. Diversionary tactic to make the big score. The diamonds in the morning, you know they want more, but they wanna keep you low, so they manifest the war. War, all they really want is a war. Diversionary tactic to make the big score. The diamonds in the morning, you know they want more, but they wanna keep you low, so they manifest the war. Check. All right, 1 2 1 2. Yes, and today is the 25th March, Wednesday, 2026. I'm sorry, 09:19 Central European Time. That makes it 03:19 East Coast America. And how's everybody doing today? I mean, you made it. If you're here, if you're watching me, you made it, you survived. And that's a wonderful thing, you know, for those of us that are blessed to be able to just have normal functioning lives in the midst of everything else that's going on. You know, I'm totally I'm happy for that myself, you know, and hopefully people that don't have, you know, a steady wake up, a steady morning, a steady day, you know what I'm saying? Hopefully these things get resolved. And if Donald Trump is causing you economic problems, I'm sorry to hear that. I mean, that's hard news to have to grapple with. Rafika, I see you. What's up, Rafika? It's hard news to grapple with because look, everyday people have to plan years in advance. You got to have like a 10-year plan, you know what I mean, for your economy,
for the things you want to do. You know what I'm saying? And when you have a government that just swinging all over the place any day, no consistency, it's almost like they don't want their citizens to get ahead at all, you know? And think about this. The richest country on earth has citizens that are just, never know what the right move is to make, never know how to plan. Oh, you woke up, Rafika. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you so much. Never know how to plan. Life is supposed to have some consistency, some expectation in it for you to plan. And, it just seems like, hey, what can you plan for? Nothing. Executive order, executive order, executive order. If that's going to be the case, then the president can do anything he wants anytime. So make sure when you vote this midterm election, make sure you vote for people that are out there talking about universal health care for all, basic shit, universal education for all citizens, basic shit. You know what I'm saying? That are talking about spending in the public sector. And I don't mean in the public sector. I'm talking about housing, things that have shit to do with everyday people, right? Transportation, transportation should be cheaper, by the way. Public transport should be timely, efficient, reliable, and cheap. You see what I mean? And if you're a parent and you just so happen to have a child, you should be able to easily access the public transportation with your child wagon and anything else you need for your kids. It should be made for the people, public transport, and it shouldn't matter how much money you have to get on it. Hey, people, you think about this. Most people that are on public transport are going to work. So the state that they live in is already taxing them. You see what I mean? It's already taxing the people. Where is the genius in making people pay for public transport when, you're taxing them in every other way possible anyway, and they have to get the fucking work. What is the point? What, you don't know how many people are going to take the train next week? You don't know how many people take the bus in your state? You can't just throw that shit up in the tax system. Make it fair for folks. You see what I mean? I just wonder. By the way, a lot of public funds goes to public transport, even though they charge you an extra fee. You're getting taxed on it anyway. So this is just one of the regular things people have to think about every day, the inconsistencies and just the crazy shit. And then, of course, you got to think about the war. But here's the real thing. Time has gone on, and people said this before Trump came in office. They said he was going to run up the debt. Now, of course, Republicans gaslight. So they talked always about Democrats running up the debt. But it's always Republicans starting a war that they leave Democrats the bag in. It's always them. They're always doing it. That's their history in the United States of America. You know what I'm saying? And they start long, big wars. It's this kind of, it's bigotry. It's bigoted. See, it's this kind of thing like this. If you have freedom and equal rights, someone has to have more rights than others. So that's how the Republicans do it. The Republicans say, you know what? We won't play this game fair. We will expect you to be the most conservative, but we will call ourselves conservative and just run amok. And then when you get in power, we will point at you like you're not fiscal conservatives because you want to spend money on education and healthcare. How dare you? That's what's going on in the U.S. But out of the blue, they got money for a war. Out of the blue, a war that didn't even exist, a war that didn't even happen. No one's who doesn't know you need oil from Iran? Who doesn't know that? Who hasn't figured that out? What has been gained? Have you made the Iranians feel like they're less human? Have you taught them their place by doing this? No. What you've done is you've shown the world that you don't know your place. You don't have a place. You know what I'm saying? You've shown the world that, that you shouldn't have a space. You shouldn't be, seen as civilized, when you just go out there and you think you can bomb people into feeling less than you. That's not going to work. People end up hating you. People end up rallying against you. Of course, everybody knows this is a little trap. This is a little Putin, Trump conversation they had in private. And they're going to make NATO go through all the shenanigans, trying to get NATO involved in a war, try to get the EU involved in the war. China, they all know it's been pre-planned. And, it's been pre-planned like this. So, of course, it's not going to work, but it's not going to stop them from trying it. The cat is out of the bag. Everybody knows it's a scam. You see what I mean? But yet they just going to do it anyway, right? Because, hey, they got nothing better to do. That's what it is. Listen, you are not rich. You are not, don't have a certain look. You don't have a certain, you're a little too woke. You're too woke. So you shouldn't have rights. Like, you shouldn't have the right to decide anything because you're too woke. This is so funny. You know what I'm saying? You're too educated to decide things. You think you better than us. You woke. You know what I mean? So let's go prove we ain't woke and bomb Iran. Like, listen, Trump has no diplomacy. He has zero diplomacy skills. The U.S. Treasury admitted being insolvent. Basically, yeah, Jethro, exactly. They did. And, here we have a president. Listen, they say the U.S. only has $6.6 trillion in assets, but it's $43 trillion in debt. That's twice the GDP, the yearly GDP. The U.S. how did they get that? Under Biden, it wasn't that high. It wasn't anywhere close to that high. Just when Trump comes into office, now it's almost double. Now the debt is almost double. You think Biden ran up the debt just in 4 years like that? No, man, that debt has been getting run up for years, decades, 40 goddamn years. You see what I mean? And all of a sudden we have one president that just gets to, and this is what's legal. Under this Congress, under this Senate, these elected officials have decided that is normal. One man can double the deficit in 1 year. They've decided that's normal. It's okay. Yo, listen, this is not going to end well. I'm just saying it. The Supreme Court judges, it ain't going to end well for you. Many congressional members, because you know who they are, it's not going to go well for you. Look, when Pam Bondi says she don't want to come and live on the street, in the regular street with everybody else because even her security detail can't protect her, she's got to live on a military base. Let me tell you, Americans are being patient. They're waiting to vote. They're waiting to follow the rules, like good, respecting people that live in democratic societies. They're waiting. But once that motherfucking vote comes in, it's going to be chase a whole lot of people out of town because Americans are fucking pissed. And they're going to be very decisive, very detailed about how they go and who they go after. It's not going to be just like, just anybody. No. They're going to have a long list of names. You got the list of names. They're going to have them. All you got to do is go up there and see, who has not called for impeachment of Trump yet? Can we get a name? Anybody who hasn't called for the impeachment of Trump yet, they on that list. And they don't deserve to live in the United States of America anymore. They have decided that they want to run the country into the ground, and but listen, hey, guess what? Most people, I tell you what, guess who doesn't live on the military base? Hakeem Jeffries don't live on a military base. Guess who don't live? What Democrat representative in office lives in a fucking base? Which one? Who? When did they start doing this? Listen, when you have to live on a military base, you're admitting that you've done something wrong that has pissed off a whole lot of people and you just don't feel safe. And you shouldn't feel safe. I mean, this is where it's at. You best believe somebody has shook these motherfuckers and they deserve to be shook. You notice how the Supreme Court, one of the head justice came out like a week ago in some meeting. Or what did he have? He sat on a panel where he said, people shouldn't take it personal. You know what that means? It means death threats. Oh, more than normal. That's what that means. And these people are starting to fear for their goddamn lives. But listen, United States of America is not like other Western countries. The United States of America citizens, what makes them very unique is they, Justice Roberts, they have the right to bear arms. And they flash those arms around all the time. They show you, hey, we got these fucking arms. Yeah, you ain't going to take them from us. Yeah, that's right. And that's exactly who's threatening these motherfuckers. That's exactly why Pam Bondi, because see, some of these Republicans, they love their guns and been waiting to go out and kill and shoot some people. They done figured out that it's these people that sold them out. They figured that out. See, they're not all dumb. All these right wingers all of them aren't dumb. They pay attention to numbers. You see what I mean? Now, you can fool them once. You can fool them twice. But fool me again. Like Bush said, it ain't going to happen. It's not going to happen. So these motherfuckers are scared, and they should be scared, because American citizens, just understand, you try to steal the democracy. You run the economy into the ground. You try to stop people, citizens. You hinder citizens from walking down the street by fucking stopping them. You're hindering them. And you plan on stopping them on their way to the voting polls too, because that's just what you want to do. Just understand, you're doing that in a country where Americans have more guns. The citizens of the United States of America have more fucking guns than the citizens of China and Russia put together, and any other Western nation. Just put them all together. Just throw them all fucking together. This is who you're fucking with in the United States of America. And these judges know it. Some of them got money under the table. Clarence Thomas, you better run, motherfucker. Like, seriously, you better run. Because everybody's got your resume, okay? And you being black ain't going to save you, okay? You being the one black man up there, token, is not going to save your ass. People fucking hate you. People hate you, all right? Who else? Who else? But Pam Bondi's, let's go find out who's living on a military base right now. Let me just make sure I understand this right. What Trump appointees are living on military bases instead of civilian housing? Let's just figure this one out. I mean, there's always an upside to stuff, right? There's always an upside. It's upside. The economy is going down. Gas prices are going up. Hey, but a lot of these Trump sycophants, they don't care about the gas going up. They're just going to say it was like that with Biden. Okay, it was like that with Kamala. It was like that with Obama. Okay, all right, sure it was. Okay, this is crazy. Look, Mike Pompeo, Jim Mattis. Look, this is crazy. All the Trump administration officials have moved into military housing in Washington, D.C. area. Okay, it's happened before now, but let's check it out. Let's see here. Where they reside? Mark Rubio resides at Fort McNair, D.C. The Secretary of State is living in the boat. What's wrong with your normal civilian home in D.C.? It's not safe enough, Mark? It sounds something very fishy is going on there. something very, very fishy. Rubio does not trust the American public. He doesn't think the American streets are safe. You know what I'm saying? Not in D.C. No. I thought Trump said crime was, they got rid of crime. I guess not. Not the kind of crime they really think they can get rid of, because this kind of crime is not your normal crime that these people are afraid of. These motherfuckers are afraid of only some type of crime that can happen when people think you are a treasonist. Okay. Pete Hegseth also lives in Fort McNair, especially he lives in quarters 8, a residence traditionally reserved for Army Vice Chief of Staff. He lives there. What's wrong? You scared? Scared to walk down the street? Are you really scared to walk down the street? I mean, again, this is where you live. Not when you did some petty crime, and not even petty crime. I mean, even, it's just so many people that just, can you believe that their security, these people don't feel safe just living in civilian areas, homes like Obama? Obama just lives in D.C. with his normal security detail. These people have security details. Who do you think is protecting them? This is the Secret Service. But they don't feel safe. Okay. Is Biden living on a military base? No, Biden's out in the motherfucking beach and shit, taking pictures and shit, having, his old ass is on the beach somewhere showing his naked body and shit kicked back. You know what I'm saying? He don't give a fuck. He got his shades on out there. He feels safe. Why do these people not feel safe? Pam Bondi reported to be living in military housing, duo, and heightened threat assessments. I'm not lying. I wasn't lying. They're living there because somebody is coming for their ass. And it's a whole lot of people. So many, they can't figure out who it's going to be. I mean, when everyone hates you, that's what the fuck is happening. You know what I'm saying? When everybody hates, they don't know if it's going to be Cuba or if it's going to be a MAGA supporter who just like the MAGA supporter who went down to Mar-a-Lago with a shotgun to try to shoot Trump's ass. Just like him. They don't know who it's going to be. These people are despised by everybody. Left, right, Iran, Cuba, the EU. They don't know if it's going to be Canada that comes after their ass. They done pissed off Canada. They pissed off maple syrup and shit. You know what I'm saying? They pissed off. They pissed off people with universal health care. I mean, you have to work hard. They pissed off Switzerland. You got to work hard to piss off Switzerland, yo. It's not easy to piss off Switzerland. It's not easy to piss off Denmark and shit. But they found a way to be hated. They don't know who is coming for them. Santa Claus might be coming for their ass. Look, Jesus, the Pope. The Vatican might send somebody after their ass. The Vatican don't even like their ass. I mean, this is unprecedented. Guess who else lives who doesn't want to live among civilians, who doesn't feel safe walking down the fucking street? They don't feel safe living in a civilian housing in D.C., laying down and closing their eyes. They don't want to sleep. They don't want to sleep in civilian housing, yo. Who is this? Stephen Miller. All that shit Stephen Miller talked. His punk ass. He's not even chancing it. Listen, these people are guilty of something. They're guilty of something. They are. I mean, for you to move to it, just to give up freedom, to live in, that means you did something wrong. That means you know it. You know they're coming for you. You know it. Yeah. You know it. Stephen Miller moved his family to a military base following persistent protests and wanted posters appearing at his previous home. Yeah, sure, that was all it was. Sure, you ain't getting no death threats, Stephen Miller. You don't. Why aren't you getting death threats? I mean, hey, okay. Who else? It's not over. There's more Trump appointee people. They're living the whole fucking administration is living in the military bases. Kristi Noem, Homeland Security Secretary, resides in a government representation facility owned by the Coast Guard. Her residency has been a point of legal contention regarding whether she can remain there after her tenure. I told you, these people are planning on leaving the United States of America when this administration is over. Like, they plan on leaving. They don't plan on staying. They plan on running. It seems like it. I mean, I bet they don't plan on staying. I'm just telling you, these people do not plan on staying. That's my bet. I bet you. Let me see here. Anybody trying to wager some money? Who's trying to wager some? I mean, it's not legal to gamble, so I take that back. But I would just say I'll wager you a lunch. How about that? I'll wager somebody a lunch. What the heck? We can be, hopefully that's allowed. Yeah. I don't believe these people will stay in the United States when this is over. I believe these people will leave. I believe these people, they're going to go back to wherever the fuck they come from. And it's not the United States of America. I'm just telling you, they're not staying there. The American people are pissed. Listen, but it's not only just so far. Come on, this is bad news. Let me show you what I'm reading. Let me show you so you don't think I'm making this shit up. Key officials residing on military bases. Look, according to reports, look, Marco Rubio, he's living in a fucking military base. He's not living in civilian housing. Pete Hegseth, he's not living in civilian housing. Pam Bondi, she's not living in civilian housing. She's living in a fucking military base. Stephen Miller, he's living in a military base. Kristi Noem, she's living in a military base. Daniel P. Driscoll, Secretary of Army, lives at the Joint Base Meyer Henderson. Okay, reportedly sharing a home with another senior political appointee. Yeah. John Felon, Secretary of Navy, moved to a base after his private D.C. home was damaged in a fire. Man, don't stand your ground. Whatever happened to stand your ground, man? Whatever happened to stand your ground? Just stay there, man. Don't worry about these threats. Stay in your home. Okay? Stay put. Stay put so anybody can find you. Okay? You know. You know what I'm saying? Like, yeah, they moving to Argentina. These people are done. I'm just saying this. This is my assessment of American people. Once they figure out that once they get the sense that these people only did this to put money in their pocket and didn't care about anybody else, didn't even care about the things they talked about. Once American people figure that one out, man, you're in the wrong country. Yo, they're going to go hard. They're going to go hard. It's going to happen. But American people are smart. They know that this election is important. They want to vote their ass out. But as soon as they vote their ass out, these people, they should run for their lives. Like, seriously, because then people won't need them anymore. Nobody have to be nice after the election is won. You know what I'm saying? After the election is won, all the rules change, motherfucker. You gonna get every bit of anger. The only reason why people are holding back now is because they don't want Trump to declare a national emergency, so he tries to stop the election. After that, shit. After that, these people are in fucking trouble. Yo, I mean, how many people? This is all his political appointees. Look at this. Not all of them. There is. And these are key ones. These are all the ones you see on fucking TV. I'm surprised Caroline Leavitt ain't living on a military base. Look, Marco Rubio, Pete Hegseth, Pam Bondi, Stephen Miller, Kristi Noem. When is Kash Patel moving to the base? I mean, that's all I'm asking. It's only a couple left. How many are left? How many people are left? You know, it's not many left. But in any case, and I think this news about the economy is really what's going to piss people off. Like, because you're going to have to live with this. Look, you have to live with these results. Here we go. Let's get to the numbers here. All right. This is so sad. Yeah, it is what it is. But then again, you had a choice. Of course, you need to lie to yourself and tell you that it would have been the same if Kamala was elected. I understand it. You got to lie to yourself because you're a jackass who didn't vote for her. So what you're not strong. You don't have, a firm, constitution. So you can't admit you're fucked up and stupid. That would be asking too much. So you got to say it would be just the same if Kamala was in office. It wouldn't be no better. So you can, not take any responsibility for being a dumbass. Okay. Now here it is. As of March 2025-26, here's the state of the Treasury and the U.S. economy. National debt, 39 trillion. Then, the GDP is 22, 23, 27 trillion, something like that. 25 trillion, something like that. It was on par to increase every year, no matter what. But now you can see it's going into recession. So that means it's not increasing. It's at a standstill, which was expected because of Trump's tariffs and all the things he's been doing. I mean, pocketing money and everything else. Now, let's see here. 39 trillion. Total gross national debt is projected to hit 39 trillion today. Yeah. So, March 25th. To put that in perspective, the debt has grown by roughly 2.6 trillion over the past year, an average increase of about 7 billion every single day. Deficit trends. The cumulative deficit for the 2026 fiscal year reached 919 billion by the end of February. While this is about 14% lower than this time last year, thanks to strong tax revenue, interest payments on the debt have jumped to 31 billion, 8% due to higher rates. Okay. So, here we go. So, custom revenue spike. Interestingly, Treasury receipts from customs duties have surged by over 280% compared to the last year, a direct result. Okay, so this is the second year of Trump being in office, right? Due to the direct result of the administration increased tariffs on imported goods. Interest rate, Treasury yields, market yields, the 10-year Treasury note, a critical benchmark for mortgages. Okay, let me see here. 10-year Treasury note, a critical benchmark for mortgages and corporate loans, is currently hovering around 4.34%. Okay. Fed strategy. The Federal Reserve recently held interest rates steady at 3.5 to 3.75. Treasury yields rose following this decision as the Fed signaled a hawkish tone, suggesting that rate cuts may be delayed further into 2026 than investors originally hoped. Right, because people want the Fed to loan money, but you can't loan money if people, if they're not going to be able to pay it back. You can't lower interest rates and loan money that way if there's still going to be a lot of defaulting, and there will be, right? That's the problem. Everybody doesn't have money in their hands. The only and look who's pushing the most for it. It's the rich people, because they don't give a fuck about the rest. So they want the loans, the interest rates to be dropped so they can get cheaper loans. You see what I mean? But the average person won't benefit from it. It's going to be a scam. You're going to pay for it later, right? So the best way to do with that is not give all the breaks to the billionaires. And then you have, a decent life for everybody else. But that's not what voters voted for. Voters literally voted for the billionaires this time, and not their families and not their communities. And it doesn't matter what state you come from. This was the totality of the votes, right? Americans, and you have to own it together, because you're going to be paying these bills together. See, being a Republican doesn't mean you won't be paying this off. You will. You'll be paying this off for for some years, for another generation probably. So it doesn't make you better. It doesn't put you in a better situation. No, it puts you in the same situation or worse than Democrats, actually. So, I mean, really. Middle East impact. Markets on the edge due to the conflict with Iran. High energy prices, oil barrel, right, creating inflationary pressure, which typically keeps the Treasury yields higher as investors demand more return to offset rising costs. Key Treasury initiatives. Trump accounts. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent is rolling out a Trump accounts, a new program where the government provides 1,000 seed contribution invested in stock market and every eligible American child. The goal is to create a generational down payment on the American dream. You can see this is propaganda, right? AI Innovation Series. On the March 23rd, the Treasury officially launched the AI Innovation Series to explore how the artificial intelligence can improve any case. Here, tax cuts. Under the One Big Beautiful Bill, the Treasury and IRS are implementing new rules that eliminate federal taxes on tips, overtime, and car loans, which the administration claims is putting more money back into the workers' pockets. Okay. So taxes on car loans. I don't even know what. Why not just say, isn't there taxes? Why not say no taxes on student debt? Why not that? Why not no interest on student debt? Why not that? Why not, no interest on, first time buyers for homes, first time. You see what I mean? How about that? How about no interest on, your loan for your first home, the only home? If you only own one home, How about something like that? But in any case, right now here, the Treasury didn't claim the government's insolvent, but these are the critics. This is what the critics say about the Treasury's language. Okay, so Treasury has sparked a lot of debate among economics and financial analysis. Here's the context behind the insolvent talk. The insolvent headlines. The term insolvent means being used by critics and some financial analysts following the release of the FY 2025 consolidated financial statements published recently in March 2026. Okay. The numbers, the report shows the U.S. is roughly 6.6 trillion in assets. Can y'all see that? Yep. 6.6 trillion in assets against 47.78 trillion in official liabilities. The calculation, when you include future unfunded promises for Social Security and Medicare, total obligations exceed 136 trillion. The argument. Analysis like Steve Hank and David Walker, former U.S. Comptroller General, argued that because liabilities so vastly outweigh assets, the government is structurally insolvent. Right? Yeah. I mean, it is. That's what it sounds like to me. Yeah, exactly. Total obligations. The argument analysts like Steve Hank, David Walker, Comptroller, argued that because the liabilities so vastly outweigh the assets, the government is structurally insolvent by standard accounting rules. Like normally a business would be considered insolvent, right? At that point. In fact, you wouldn't be able to do any business. No bank would want you if this is what's going on typically, right? If this was if you did this bad yourself with your own personal accounting, you'd be in jail. You would be in jail. You know what I'm saying? Okay. The official, you fuck around like this. Okay. The official government stance, despite these sobering numbers, the Treasury and the administration maintain that the U.S. economy remains strong and solvent for several key reasons. The reserve currency, the U.S. prints the world's reserve currency, the dollar, so they're relying on the world to use our currency to trade with. At the same time, BRICS exist, and these nations are trying to change that. Yeah, basically, they're saying, why should we use the U.S. dollar? Right. So that's what they're saying. And I mean, it's already happening in any case. The reserve currency, the U.S. prints the world's reserve currency, the dollar. So look at this. Trump said the U.S. doesn't need other countries. Right. Isn't that what he said? That's the message Trump is sending out. But here he's saying we need that. We're relying on other countries using our services. That's what he's saying. We're relying on that. And, to guarantee that the country's economy is not insolvent. Okay, the reserve currency. U.S. prints the world's reserve currency, dollar. Unlike household and government can theoretically issue more currency or debt to meet its obligation. So they just plan on printing more money. But who's going to pay for it? The rich got richer. The taxpayers, the average everyday American pays for that. They got tax deductions. So those tax deductions are really coming out of your pocket. You're paying that debt off, but you will also have to pay further debt now. Because their plan is to print more money. Borrowing power. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent stated as recently as Sunday that the U.S. has plenty of money to fund its operations in the current conflict in the Middle East because they can just print more money, right? Okay. Debt, is this the part of the Russians' plan? Is this China's plan to have the U.S. engaged in war, spending billions of dollars every day, not knowing how it's going to pay it, except hoping that everyone that they're going to war against or everyone that's offended by them going to war is just going to continue to use their currency. See, if they just one day happen to say, no, we're not going to do that, then where is the United States of America? Then where are Americans? Totally broken ass out. Okay. Let's see here. Plenty of money. Debt ceiling. The One Big Beautiful Bill Act of 2025 raised the debt ceiling to 41 trillion, providing a runway that experts believe will prevent any actual default until at least 2027. Okay. So this is they just raised the debt ceiling. They didn't say it's time for everybody to cough up some money and pay back the debt. They said, no, we'll kick the can down the road. We'll kick it down the road to the next Democratic president. And then we will blame that president for not being fiscally responsible, no matter who they are. Okay. Current economic risk. While not insolvent in a way that stops the checks from being mailed today, the economy is facing real pressure. Interest costs for the first time. Interest payments on the debt are consuming, oh my God, nearly 14% of all federal spending. Interest payments, 14%. Okay. That may not sound bad to you because a lot of Americans get fucked up in these bad debt things where they paying more than 14%, paying like serious mafia and shit in suit and ties, with corporate mafia. But for government, this is not good, y'all. This is not good. I'm just saying 14% is definitely not normal. But let's see here. Oil prices. With oil over 100 a barrel due to the Iran conflict, inflation is a persistent threat to the Treasury stability. Okay. Credit rating. While the U.S. has never defaulted, rating agencies continue to monitor these high debt GDP levels, currently around 101%. Yes. Would you like me to explain how the current 39 trillion debt level affects things like your mortgage rates and the value of the dollar? Yes, let's do that. And while you do that, let me go to the chat and see who's in here. Let me see here. Eric, I see you. Jethro. Let me see here. Who else? Who is that? Ezra B. Breeze. Okay. All right. What's up to you? Double tech. Now the ultimate backstabs for the financial sector. Something's coming. I don't think any normal thinking person likes what this is sounding like. Ditch the dollar. Yeah. Super Demon says ditch the dollar. Jazzy says commoners like the U.S. money. The admins. Yeah, that's what they say. Let me see here. Look at this. Hold on. John Crofan. Blah, 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 blah. It's all a complete waste of time. 20 years from now, you will realize how much time you wasted on being negative. No, I'm not actually wasting. I'm actually having fun, man. And I do get paid a little bit. I don't know if you know that. And I also promote things. So, by the way, for those of you that are in the Copenhagen area, there's a demonstration. It's called the No Kings demonstration. It's happening in front of the American Embassy on the 28th. That's this Saturday. I believe it's at 1 to 2 p.m. Yeah, 1 to 2 p.m., 1 hour in front of the American Embassy in Copenhagen, Denmark. Everybody's welcome. You see, here's the thing, man. I understand the projection because most people, they only understand what level of business or what level of busyness they're on themselves. So that you might see it that way. I understand that. You might think I'm just wasting my time. I got you. No problem. But if you really knew me, you would see that, nah, man, I'm actually good at this shit. And this is not the only thing I'm good at, by the way. I'm talking about in terms of speaking to people publicly, closing the gaps in understanding. You know what I'm saying? Like taking what is on the taking what's on the academic level and making it easy to understand on the everyday level. You see what I mean? Bridging the gaps, information for people, therefore mobilizing folks to take an action. So for you, that's a waste of time because I guess you don't encourage people to vote. You know what I'm saying? You don't believe in politics, apparently, so you don't want people talking about politics like myself. But I do believe in politics, and I believe your vote matters, and I believe you should have alternatives to who the president is right now. I believe in democracy, and I don't think that's a waste of time at all, especially in a country where you got 80 million people who didn't even vote in the last presidential election, and then you got 40 million people who don't even have health care. You need someone talking about it. I don't know if you think 40 million people not having health care in a country with 350 million is a good sign of something. No, you wasted your money supporting Trump because you're stupid. And, you know, you shouldn't be that stupid as a grown ass. You know what I'm saying? Like, come on. As a kid, you could believe all this shit you want. You see what I mean? But once you become, you know, when you're reading comprehensive, yeah, somebody said, I didn't vote. Yeah, well, hey, man, we need your vote, bro. We need your vote, 45. Go out there and vote, man. You know what I'm saying? Like, seriously, get out there and vote and demand something from the people you vote for, too, also, you know. But, yeah, otherwise, the billionaires, they love the fact that people don't vote. You know, they depend on that, you know, they depend on that totally. So go out there and vote, man. It's your tax dollars. You're paying. Haven't you ever heard of taxation without representation? There was a war over that. There was a time where people thought like taxation without representation. Hey, fuck that. I'm going to go to war over this shit. Today, there's American citizens saying, fuck voting. But they paying the taxes. You are paying the taxes. Like that you will do. You know what I'm saying? So I say go out there and vote. You know, now let me see something here. Let's get into, there's some other news. Let me just prepare this a little bit. There's a lot of news actually coming out today. The Supreme Court, what else was there? Let me see something here. Let me just go over to this real quick. There was the Supreme Court who also had heard some cases, right? Now let me see. But before I go on, let me see. Here we go. There's more. Oh, wow. This is so funny. Okay. Back to these security threats real quick. I'm sorry. Specific security threats. The move to General's Row and other based housing wasn't a random choice. It was triggered by a series of high profile security incidents throughout 2025. The Charlie Kirk catalyst. Many officials cite the killing conservative activist Charlie Kirk in 2025 as the turning point that made private civilian housing feel unsafe. Stephen Miller's punk ass doesn't even like protesters. Like, damn, you that scared of protesters, man? Like, damn, you got to get outside more, bro. Like, what the hell is going on with that? But yeah, he didn't feel that. He didn't feel safe. And yeah, but in any case, so let me get over to some of the legacy media reporting and see what's going on with this shit.
Voters
here we go. Let's see.
In Florida are headed to the polls in President Trump's own backyard. Democrats hope to notch.
Trump voted mail-in ballot, y'all. While he's saying mail-in ballot is fraudulent, he voted mail-in ballot. Did you know that? Yay, Trump. So you don't see, this is the key to Trump. For him, he believes in certain rights. For you, he doesn't. It's very simple. What's good for the goose is not good for the gander. Trump is a classist. He enjoys his life differently from yours, distinctively different from yours. He by truth, I mean, he's a gluttonous pig, but he's not a conservative. You know, he doesn't have conservative values. You know what I mean? He doesn't even give a fuck about the United States of America. No, I don't believe it. I don't believe it at all. He just became the president because people are fucking dumb. You just got to fess up to it. You just got to fess up to it. If you voted for Trump, you are not a smart person. And by the way, in contrast, Denmark just had election day. Is it today? Is today the final day? Or was it yesterday? It was yesterday, right? Let me see. Let me just make sure I got that right. As the Danish election passed, why have I been getting every day wrong this in the beginning of this week for some reason? And yeah, it ended yesterday. Okay, it was Tuesday. I'm sorry. It was Super Tuesday. I'm confusing it. I'm sorry. But it ended. And check this out. Unlike the U.S., they have to form a unity government because no party got a majority. You see what I mean? None. So that means they got to make a unity government of probably like 6 different parties, maybe. You see what I'm saying? Maybe more. But the red bloc got more votes, and the red bloc, excuse me, the red bloc in Denmark, they got more votes. And that's the bloc that believes in universal health care. I mean, most Danes believe in that, but the foundations are universal health care, universal education, fair wage, workers' rights, workers' rights is heavy in Denmark, So all the red bloc agrees with that. Where they differ a little bit on the red side is immigration, and some of the red parties a little more right leaning when it comes to immigration. And this is a good example for Americans. You can still have right wing politics that's concerned about immigration while you support universal health care for your citizens. Did you know you can do that? There's plenty of countries that do that, by the way. In fact, most Western countries do that. Most Western countries, the right wing still wants their citizens having a decent life. Only in the United States is that backwards, But in any case, Trump voted, Trump voted by mail, He literally has called Congress to stop mail-in voting. That's crazy. It's crazy.
To win in the special state house election for a Palm Beach district that includes the president's Mar-a-Lago residence. Republican John Maples, who has President Trump's endorsement, faces Democratic business owner Emily Gregory. President Trump voted by mail in this special election, even as he has sought to limit mail-in voting with legislation and has publicly decried it.
People, again, the sycophants, the Trump sycophants, don't care if Trump is a hypocrite. That's part of what they like about him. It's kind of like a way that they show power. It's like a way of demeaning other Americans by saying we don't have any set values. We can just lie openly and you can't do anything about it. It's like a petulant child kind of power. You know what I'm saying? So they don't care that Trump voted this way, right? They don't care that Trump found it useful for him. No, they don't care about that.
Voters in Florida
they don't care about any hypocrisy about Trump. It's all good.
To the polls in President Trump's own backyard. Democrats hope to notch a win in the special state house election for a Palm Beach district that includes the president's Mar-a-Lago residence. Republican John Maples, who has President Trump's endorsement, faces Democratic business owner Emily Gregory. President Trump voted by mail in this special election, even as he has sought to limit mail-in voting with legislation and has publicly decried it for years. Listen.
You will never have an honest election if you have mail-in, and it's time that the Republicans get tough and stop it. Election if you
decried it for years. Listen.
You will never have an honest election. Have an honest election if you have an honest.
Decried it for years. Listen.
You will never have an honest election if you have mail-in, and it's time that the Republicans get tough and stop it. Because the Democrats want it. It's the only way they can get elected.
The problem I have with Colorado, one of the big problems, they do mail-in voting. They went to all mail-in voting. So they have automatically crooked elections, and we can't have that. Corrupt mail-in ballots. We're the only country in the world that does it that way. Corrupt as hell. Brought to my attention today that we're the only country that does mail-in voting. Mail-in voting means mail-in cheating. I call it mail-in cheating.
The guy just openly lied right there. He says we're the only country that does mail-in voting. Trump is he's a pathological liar among many things. But again, MAGA people don't care if he's a liar. They don't care if he's a hypocrite. They don't care if he does different than what he says. They don't even care if he does different from what he wants them to do. It's like MAGA supporters don't care about ethics and morals. That's how we got here,
And we got to do something about it.
Co-producer.
So it's actually pretty interesting how that dynamic has occurred in the U.S. And it's gone far, actually. The fact that that's considered normal right now, that's considered okay, even by Republican standards, it's really a lowering of the bar, like of the standards of the whole country. Like people, when you don't even care about perception, the conflict of how changes someone's perception of your country when your leaders just openly lie like this. I'm talking about, look at Trump. He's not even making an effort to even look like he's not lying. He just does it anyway because, I don't know, has he always been allowed to lie and never been held accountable? And he's not being held accountable a lot of times when he lies. I mean, people know he's lying. That's the worst part about it. And they just don't hold him accountable. That's crazy, man. It's sad. Here we go. Let's see. What else are you talking about?
On the scene for us in Florida right now. What are you hearing on the ground where you are, Randy?
It's been interesting, Wolf. As you said, today's election is between Republican John Maples and Democrat Emily Gregory. She's a business owner, a military spouse, and a first-time candidate. He is a former council member from a nearby town. But it's important to note here, Wolf, that President Donald Trump won this district in 2024 by 11 points. And so the question is, how much of a factor will he be in this race? As you said, the Democrats are certainly hoping to flip this seat from red to blue. That would just be adding to a string of nationwide victories. And we were able to confirm that President Donald Trump did vote by mail, according to the Palm Beach County records. Now, as you know, yesterday he called mail-in voting mail-in cheating. So it's interesting that we were able to confirm that he did vote by mail. He is one of 180,000 residents here in District 87.
I mean, and he early voted. Not only that, he not only did he mail in vote, he early voted. I mean, that's crazy.
That can vote today in this special election. There are others that voted by mail, others that took part in early voting. But the White House has said in regard to his vote by mail, they issued a statement to CNN saying, as everyone knows, the president is a resident of Palm Beach and participates in Florida elections. But he obviously primarily lives at the White House in Washington, D.C. This is a non-story. Well, we've been talking to voters here.
I mean, what is he talking about? How many Americans have that issue? Like, that doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make any sense. That's exactly why you have mail-in voting, because a lot of Americans, look, if you pay your taxes, why do they give a fuck? If you're paying taxes, what is the problem with your preferred type of vote? If you're paying your own bills, what's the problem? They should be happy you're fucking paying taxes. They should be happy you have a job. They should be happy you got two residents, one where you might be working at or spend some time in and, you know, doing whatever you do. They should be happy for you. Instead, they're penalizing you.
All morning, both Republican and Democrats, not only about the election, but also about President Trump's influence in the election, as well as the fact that he voted by mail. And here's some of what we heard.
Let me see here. Wayne, is it Winnie? I think it's Winnie 60. Everybody fucking has mail. Every Western country has mail-in voting pretty much. So that was just a total lie by Trump. And listen, why don't people bother to know things about other American citizens? Why don't they do that when they vote? Every American citizen should know another American citizen that mail-in votes. That's not strange. There's elderly that do it. Why? Because they can't leave the house. People, listen, if you live in an elders facility, you're still allowed to vote, right? If you're in prison, in some cases you're still allowed to vote. Why? That's not your address. I don't think they do it that way. But in any case, if you're traveling, if you have a vacation, if you're traveling for business, if you got a vacation with your kids, why can't you mail and vote? If you're gone I mean, what's the big deal here? It's still you, the American citizen, voting. So what they're saying is, don't make no plans. That day you need to be in your home and in that town. Don't make no big plans, y'all. You better be where we can find you and shit. I don't know, man.
There's no reason to do by mail.
So do you think President Trump shouldn't have voted by mail?
Correct. I think he shouldn't have. If he's against something, why are you doing it?
Well, I think voting by mail is fine. So, he seems to talk out of both sides of his mouth about it. Like, if he doesn't like it if it's not going to help Republicans.
I mean, all we can do is vote, right? So vote and pray.
Now, Donald Trump did endorse John Maples, the Republican in this race, calling Maples a very successful businessman and civil leader who is known and loved, adding that he will be a terrific legislator. When I asked some of the voters here, again, both Republicans and Democrats, whether or not Donald Trump is a factor in this race, many of them said they didn't even know that he had endorsed John Maples, and that wasn't really a factor for them, while others did say that was important, that whatever President Donald Trump says, they will do. So the polls are open here in Florida until 7 p.m. tonight, Wolf, and we should have some results after that.
This is just ironic as hell that Trump he himself called the practice a scam, So if he really feels so deeply that it's a scam, then why the hell is he using it? If he calls it a scam, how does he know his vote even counted? I mean, this is what I don't understand. He's done so much to try to say the elections are rigged, and then what does he do himself? He acts like his vote counted. No problem. I voted, by mail. My vote counted. He's not even concerned about it. They're not even sending the FBI down there to find out if Florida counted his vote. You know what I'm saying? Like nothing there. It's only when it comes to you voting, the regular layman, that all of a sudden it's a problem. Oh my God, this is going to be fraud. You know what I'm saying? Maybe Trump voted twice. Anybody checking for that? Check the Florida voting records and see if Trump voted twice. Can we find that out since there's fraud going on? I mean, no, not at all. Here we go. In any case,
just voted.
Check this out. Jack Cocciarella. Is it Cocciarella? Yeah, exactly. Damn, I'm sorry. But check this out. He did a story where a sheriff was caught stealing ballots seriously, straight up. And this is in California. Look, check this out.
By a method he calls mail-in cheating. Donald Trump, who is in the midst of pressuring senators to curb the use of mail-in voting, voted by mail-in ballot in Tuesday's special election in Palm Beach County, Florida.
You could not find a bigger hypocrite in government than Trump.
Now check this out.
Who rails against mail-in voting as the source of all evil, and yet he employs it at every opportunity. And by the way, if anybody in America had the ability to go and at least optically show that I'm going to put my money where my mouth is and I'm going to go cast my ballot in person, it's him. It's the guy with Air Force One at his disposal. You think it's difficult for Donald J. Trump to get down to Florida to cast a ballot, especially if your pet issue is we should be voting in person? And yet even he doesn't do it. Even he tacitly endorses the convenience and the safety of mail-in voting.
And this is a guy who likes to put on a show whenever he votes.
Right.
I'm surprised he doesn't have like a seafood platter and some weird like cougar woman in a cocktail that they do at Mar-a-Lago now. Have you seen? I know you have because you've reacted to all of those. But like, are you more disturbed by the size of the shrimp that they are able to get at Mar-a-Lago, or the women in the cocktail glasses? The shrimp are fucking big. I'm like, where are they getting these shrimp?
I actually think it's so instructive to watch what goes down at Mar-a-Lago because it is a parody of itself, and it is so like let them eat cake, and you couldn't
Mar-a-Lago faced everything, right? Everything gets Mar-a-Lago face-ified. Like if you're 28 years old, you're filled with
Whiny. Yeah, exactly. I hope I'm pronouncing your name right. Winnie or Whiny. Exactly. If the citizens don't do something, this will never end. I mean, unfortunately, I think it's good in one way. There's one thing good about this, that Americans are going to feel so much pain, even the people that voted for Trump, that by the time the midterms come, they're going to be fucking enraged, if they're not already enraged. And we see plenty of Americans, even Republicans, voters. I'm talking about voters. I'm not talking about congressional members. They don't count because they're not the same. They got their check and they got their dental shit taken care of, and their kids go to private school. Same with Senate and everybody else. Supreme Court, they're fine with all of this shit. But the voters, the laymen, the ones that aren't enraged right now, and there's plenty, they definitely going to be enraged by the time November comes. Like, they are going to be livid because we haven't gotten to the part where your mortgage, they can automatically, most people, a good percentage of American citizens that have a mortgage, they have the type of mortgage that the bank can change at any time. They can increase the rates, and that is likely to happen in about 2-3 months from now, something like that. If the economy keeps going the way it is,
Botox and maybe.
But I'm gonna go into some information about that too. I actually started to read it, but I will go back to it.
The shrimp are too. Like, it doesn't matter. Like, they do extravagance in the worst way.
Right.
I hate the word like class, but it is a thing that they lack so much. There's like no dignity or style. It's just big and gross. And I think it really does kind of reflect what goes on in the minds of these wealthy people. Like, you saw Mark Andreessen recently say that he doesn't reflect upon anything in his life. And these people are
Has
just
no
like,
introspection.
they're just like bigger is better. More filler in my face is better. Bigger. Yeah, I'm not going to say, but we see what we have to some of these people, and like, that's what they think. And it is just so gross that is their worldview. But that is their worldview. That is how they see things, that they can operate without any repercussions. And certainly, again, coming back to this sheriff who's now stealing ballots, that's what he thinks he can do in California. I want to read a little bit more about what's going on with this sheriff. Again, a lot of overlooked details. It is just incredibly troubling. Trumpy sheriff gives bonkers reason for seizing 650,000 ballots. A MAGA sheriff in Southern California is scrambling to defend his eyebrow-raising decision to swipe more than 500,000 election ballots. Riverside County Sheriff.
You hear this? This is insane. A MAGA sheriff in Southern California is scrambling to defend his eyebrow-raising decision to swipe more than 500,000 election ballots. And listen, this time, many of those people are Republican that are pissed off at Trump. Like, straight up, Republicans better wake up. The people who voted for Trump better wake up, because I guarantee you, your life is going down the fucking drain. Riverside County Sheriff Chad Bainan, who is also a Republican candidate for governor, wrote on X Sunday that he sees 650,000 ballots from last year's election as part of an investigation into supposed voter irregularities. Now, check this out.
Chad Bianco, who is also a Republican candidate for governor, wrote on Twitter Sunday that he had seized 650,000 ballots from last year's election as part of an investigation in supposed voting irregularities. Bianco claimed his goal was to physically count the ballots and compare that result with the total votes recorded in the
They're scared shitless of this next midterm
election that resulted.
And for people that don't know, the midterm elections are more important really than the presidential election. That is, if you believe Congress writes the checks. If you believe Congress writes the laws, Congress writes the checks, and the president is just supposed to execute what Congress and the Senate put into law, if that's how you view the Constitution, then this election is more important. But here's the real reason. At the end of the day, Congress, if you have a majority in Congress and you have a majority in the Senate, 60% on either side, you can impeach anybody. You can impeach Trump. You can impeach the vice president. You can impeach Supreme Court justices. You can impeach all of the people who are his appointees and his cabinet. You can impeach all of them, and it doesn't take days. You can write it. It could be pre-prepared. It could be prepared already, ready to go. Just the whole regime. That shit can happen in 2 sessions. You see what I mean? So, just so you know, right. But let's go ahead.
Resulted in the passage of Proposition 50, a measure that redrew congressional districts.
So that's what it's about. They're mad because of Prop 50. They're trying to get out of it. You see, so he essentially wants to try to find a way to overturn it. So if he can count it and find some irregularity, then he can go to the courts and try to have it overturned. That's what this is about. But guess what, Buster? Too late, man. So many people are fucking tired of this, in the United States of America. I mean, only the hard-headed are continuing down this line of thinking here, like, really.
In a way that critics say favors Democrats. But California's Democratic Attorney General Rob Bonta has blasted the sheriff's probe as meritless. Bonta sent a letter to the sheriff earlier this month accusing Bianco of flagrantly violating his directives. The letter also said the investigation into voting irregularities was unsubstantiated and sets a dangerous precedent and will only sow distrust in our elections.
And I think the point about having all of these accusations be completely unsubstantiated is really important, because Republicans have been searching for some basis to be able to attack ballots or engage in this voter suppression. And there have been a bunch of major studies. For example, Justin Levitt, who's a law professor at Loyola Law School, studied ballot fraud from 2000 to 2014. So there were over 1 billion ballots cast in this study, and they found 31 instances of ballot fraud out of 1 billion ballots cast. Like, that wouldn't be enough to
31 instances of ballot fraud out of 1 billion ballots cast. So there's nothing in this, and it's the same across the country. It's already so difficult to vote illegally in any case because they have they use a triangulation thing. They have several different tools that they use to find out who is an American citizen, and more importantly, who is registered to vote as an American citizen and who is not. You know, they already have so many tools that they use. It's not as simple as a fucking ID. It's you're pre-selected to vote anyway. This is what people have to understand. In the United States of America, you are pre-selected to vote. You see, that means you go through a registration process, and the registration process has variables to it where they already know. They can pretty much tell who's an American. I mean, not pretty much tell, 99.9% of the time they can tell who's an American citizen and who's not just by asking for a few pieces of information about you. They can actually tell. But yet they want to sell the scam to the American people because maybe they believe people who don't know what voting is like won't know the difference. They might think that people who don't vote, will get fooled somehow by this shit, and then look, you don't need, this is a perfect example. Apple Cheeks. That obviously is a bogus ass name. So just to show you that the United States has a lot of disinformation targeting the elections, from Russia and people, countries like this where they try to show disinformation, right? This is, there's nothing on this person's website. You can't verify who they are. You can't verify where they live. You don't know their nationality, anything like that. But they're throwing out this kind of information. You need an ID in most countries. No, you don't. I didn't need an ID to vote. What are you talking about? Again, you're pre-selected, you jackass. The reason why I vote is because I'm already substantiating through every other top-notch means in the country my taxes, you jackass. Okay? What the fuck is this guy talking about? I exist in the tax world. Don't you file taxes in the United States of America? Duh. Even if you don't have a job, don't you file taxes? Yes, you're obligated to, you jackass. Okay, so you need to do some more research. But in Denmark, you don't need an ID. That's not how it's done. They're substantiating through who you are through several mechanisms that have nothing to do with your ID in advance. And you get your letter to come and vote in the mail to your own mailbox. And it only goes out to one person with your one name, with your one social security number. That's it. At your one address. That's how it works. I don't need it. And most countries, you don't need it. Why? Because elections are so advanced. It's better than a fucking ID. Do you know how many IDs can be fraudulently created? One ID is not as secure as 3 different pieces of information. You see, that's the problem. You think that people can't fake one ID? Of course they can fake one ID. If you think all they need to do is look at here's the ID. Wrong. Wrong. That's actually not the best way to do it. And that's not the most efficient way of doing stopping voter fraud, So you should be honest, research it a little more. I'm talking about all the steps, what registering is like. Have you ever registered to vote? When you register to vote, you're asked for multiple pieces of information about yourself that only really comes back to one person, one unique person. So you need to think about how registration works in reality and not just make it up. And by the way, congratulations to the left bloc in Denmark for getting more votes. Here, let's take a look at some of the news on that too. And by the way, nobody in Denmark needs an ID to vote. Nobody needs one. Okay. Again, you're already doing business with the state every day on so many different levels where you don't, you see what I'm saying? So they know who you are already in advance. So they don't need your ID at that point. It's not going to help them. What you need is something delivered to you when you've been approved to vote. And that comes to your mail. You take that out and you bring that little letter with you to the voting office that says you have been pre-selected. We know you're an American citizen because we have validated that already in advance. That's how registering happens. That's how voting happens. They don't tell you to come with your guy. Of course, I got loads of ID in my pocket. They never ask. You know what I'm saying? They ask for the piece of paper you got in your mailbox. That's what they ask for. And everyone is required to bring the piece of paper. Okay, so it's just ridiculous what these people are saying, these Trump people are saying. But in any case, come on.
Now to Denmark, where polls have closed, and exit polls suggest that left and right-leaning blocs are likely to fall short of a parliamentary majority. Denmark's social democrat to Prime Minister, Mette Frederiksen, called the early election, hoping that her firm stance against Donald Trump's attempts to acquire Greenland would boost support at the ballot box. But the diplomatic drama hasn't shifted voters' focus away from domestic and economic issues.
Every Dane is going to fight against anybody trying to take, that's really doesn't have to be a political issue in Denmark, because that's a national issue, period, across all the political parties. Every Dane is disgusted with Donald Trump, and they all have orders. The Danish military doesn't even need to call Central Command upon an invasion. They're obligated to defend using all lethal force in advance of speaking to Central Command. That means the main government. You know what I'm saying? It's like, what the fuck? So it's not really a political issue in that way, but so that's why it didn't give the current prime minister a push, because Danes are already expecting that from no matter who the president is. People are more concerned about domestic issues, and this is a lesson for American citizens too. This is a lesson. You see, they're savvy enough. The Danish voters are savvy enough to think about several different things. And I'm sure immigration came up in one of these things. But as you can see, the left bloc still won. And that means most people, and got more votes, by the way, not just one, but got more votes than last time. The left bloc, this particular party got slightly less votes, but they're not the only party in the left bloc. So the left bloc got more votes, and that means people are concerned about Social Security, pension, workers' rights, and what else? A few other things, healthcare. Yeah, they're concerned about those things. They don't want to get fooled into this, one trick pony where you only think about one thing and you just throw all the other things that matter to your society and the things that make your country special, just throw all those things out of the window, so.
Let's join our correspondent, Terry Schultz, outside the Danish Parliament, the Folketinget. Welcome, Terry.
Folketinget.
First predictions of the likely allocations of the Parliament's 179.
It almost sounds like the people's thing. Ting, yeah.
9 seats are now in. What do we know?
Actually, we're inside the Danish parliament, a building made famous by the series Borgen. We are now inside Borgen. And
Borgen, it's Borgen?
And what we know from exit polls, and we do need to emphasize that these are not firm numbers, but simply the indications that the national broadcasters have from talking to people as they left the polls, it does
Yeah, she's speaking English, so
look like Mette Frederiksen, her Social Democrats will be the largest party. That's almost unquestionable now. But they will have suffered a big loss, particularly from their showing in 2022, losing, as you say, well over a dozen seats. Now, that still puts her in the top position. Her government coalition partners from the last government also lost seats, so voters wanting to show them that they weren't completely in favor of the course that the country has taken over the last 3.5 years, but also not wanting to see any big changes. One of the other left parties, the Green Left, showed a surge in seats.
yeah, exactly. So this is the other left coalition. You know, now the left party is the one that's in power. You know, has the main votes, the main amount of votes, but that's not the only left party. So the left party is a coalition of different political parties. The one who surged is the one who's more left. You see what I mean? Than left center. You see what I mean? But the left generally across the board is about elder care, health care, education, workers' rights, right? These kind of things. A fair paycheck, you know what I'm saying? Housing, these kind of things. But now they're pointing more left. And I think it's because they're a little concerned about, you know, Danes want to make sure that the talk about security doesn't replace the talk about what's happening inside the country on the ground, day-to-day things, you know. But the left has also sponsored some, you know, been a part of some good initiatives recently. Like there's talk, I don't know if it's only, the left, there's talk about there being no tax on vegetables in Denmark. That's all across the EU. So, but you hear a lot of the left parties actually talking about that now. So there's some interesting things going on.
They are focusing on environmental policies, and as you mentioned,
environmental policies. They want to move forward with that too, you know.
Domestic spending, things like that, and they would very much like to see
domestic spending in the country. You see what I mean?
Mette Frederiksen or whomever is the next prime minister move back towards the left. So at the moment, it looks like left-leaning parties will have more seats in the 179-seat parliament than the right-wing parties, but we'll just have to see how the final results turn out in a couple of hours' time.
You know, so Mette Frederiksen is considered center left, right? So she's more, you know, right leaning, you could say, for a left party, right? So that's what's going on there. Now but all Danes, in terms of her response to Trump, all Danes agree with her, period. All Danes liked her response. But there may be some vulnerabilities there, you know what I'm saying, which I think might also have something to do with this election in terms of in terms of alleged corruption, right? There was a mink scandal, you know, where because of COVID or something like that, they killed a lot of animals, right? And then allegedly there's some allegations of lying and covering up something regarding it, funding or something like this, how it was processed, what the police did and things like this. So so there we have it. Let's go. Let's see what else.
Well, for more on what's coming out of the Danish election,
hold on.
Bring in,
look at this.
Ulrich.
2 seconds. Somebody said too many illegals voting. Someone said that, but let me just see something here. The person who said that is Wrong Think Podcast. So let me go and see what their channel looks like real quick. They say too many illegals voting. That was their comment in the chat. So let's go and see. Okay, 2018. Are you in one of these videos? Which one of these videos is you? Do you have any content yourself? Just curious. Let's look at this. Black conservative debate. Did they vote for Trump? I bet you they regret that right now. Yeah. Okay, well, too many illegals. Yeah, unfortunately, you don't have any data that proves that. So that might just be all in your brain. You know what I'm saying? Which is not a good thing to have when you got more serious issues, you know?
Pram Gad, senior researcher at the Danish Institute for International Studies. Thank you so much for talking to us here on France 24 today. Now, Frederiksen has led Denmark since 2019. She is, if narrowly...
Yeah, Hannibal, too much Fox News, yo.
Projected.
You know what I'm saying? Here we go again. Let's go down to let's go find the illegals so we don't have to worry about education, healthcare, any cost of electricity, housing, nothing like that. We just gonna too many illegals. Okay, buddy.
Secure another term. Her grand coalition, though, is expected not to win a parliamentary majority. What impact is that likely to have on her plans?
I think we will get closer to something like, the Dutch and Belgian situation, where it takes some time to form a government and we'll have to patch it together with a lot of parties. So at the moment, we're waiting for the results from the elections, but the real result will only appear in maybe days, maybe weeks before a number of parties will have to agree on how to proceed.
Now, Frederiksen
Right. So what that means is that the election is basically done, but now they have to form a government. It's not like the U.S. The U.S. has two parties. Right now, one party controls every branch of government. The Democrats control no branch. So what you're seeing right now is hyper Republican policy from every branch of government, from the Supreme Court, majority Republicans there, conservative judges. And these conservative judges do things like shoot down student debt relief, no good. Shoot down relief for farmers, you know what I mean? No good. Things like this. And now then you have a Republican Senate who passed this big, beautiful, ugly bill, which is tax deductions for people like Elon Musk and Peter Thiel. And it basically made healthcare in the United States more expensive and less people be able to access it. Right. That's what they did, among other things. Right now. And the Congress, the same. It's right leaning. So, you have all branches, and the president obviously is Trump. So he wants to invade Greenland. He wants to, depart from traditional allies. He wants to send representatives to speak poorly about other nations that have been allies for some time, 50, 60 years, almost 70 years now, this kind of stuff. So in the U.S., you only need one. You can operate everything with one party. That's not Denmark. Denmark, you have to govern by consensus, no matter what party you're in. There's a level of consensus that always has to be happening. What that means is that even though your party got less votes, you still might have a role in government. You still might have space for to barter your desires or what your party stands for, to get some of that into the government. That's what that means. Is in a way, it's kind of like all Danes together. Kind of more of the Danish population plays a role. It's not half in, half out. No, that's not Denmark. That's the USA. Half will be in, the other half will be totally out of the picture. And and that's just the way it is, But keep in mind, the results are clear. The results are Denmark has universal health care. Denmark has universal education. Denmark has strong labor laws. That labor laws sound so rough. No, that's workers' rights. That means if you get sick at work, hey man, you get to go home and be sick for a little while and come back when you're fresh. That means if you get hurt at work and you're totally disabled, yeah, you get covered for that. You're not your whole life is not gonna fall into shambles. Your kid's life is not gonna fall into shambles. Your family's life is not gonna fall into shambles because of an accident at work. Just because you can't afford health care, or just because there's no labor laws. That's what that means. You see, and you have to begin to correlate these things together. It's like that in most Western countries. More political parties, more consensus government. More consensus government tends to mean more accessible health care, more accessible education, more accessible public housing for, the everyday person, these kind of things. So more accessible rights, more civil rights. That's what it tends to mean, Let's go.
Called this moat months before the October deadline. What was the thinking there for people
Harbor Nip. I've lived in Denmark 20 years, man.
not so familiar possibly with
off and on, yeah, but 20 years altogether.
The Danish election process. And do you think it's likely to pay off?
The Social Democrats, like Social Democrats and other broad traditional people's parties in Europe, have been.
Reyes, you're mistaken, my friend. Reyes, where do you get do you even research anything? He says, you know what? Denmark also doesn't have black people. No, you have people called Afro-Danes. I don't know if you ever heard of that before, but you should Google it. But what made you say something like that, Reyes? I'm just curious about that. Because I don't know, man. It seems like you don't know a lot about the world we live in. Let me just review this. Okay, damn, you've been on you've been on YouTube since 2017, but you got no content. Okay. Well, in any case, no, you should check in on that, Reyes. That's not actually factual. That's incorrect. That's a lie you're saying, or a misnomer. No, especially in Copenhagen, but all over Denmark. No, it's not strange to see a black person in Denmark from many backgrounds. There's European people of African descent from Europe that are Europeans, that families have been here since the 1800s, man. There's across Europe, by the way, not only Denmark, but also then there's more that have come in in different points of history. By the way, one famous story you should look into is a guy who was a Marine in the Danish military in the 1700s. What was his name? His name was Hans Jonathan, and he was a slave from the U.S. Virgin Islands. He was brought to Denmark by one of the bankers in Denmark who had a plantation in the U.S. Virgin Islands. But Hans Jonathan came to Denmark and lived here, and for his freedom, he fought against the British invasion to Copenhagen. Right. London, the English invasion to Copenhagen. He fought in the Danish Marines, and he was promised his freedom if he fought. Well, he did fight, and the Danes fought off the English, got them out of here when they tried to invade the canals and come with all these ships and all of this shit here. And then, but then the judge rejected the claim. The judge didn't, he went to court. It's a famous court case. So I'm only mentioning this. He fled then, and his family ended up in Iceland, and people know the story in Denmark, and they know of him in Iceland. It's a famous story. But in any case, having said all that, black people been in Denmark a long time, man. They got pictures of them too, by the way, just so you know, And I think it's probably like 60,000, if I'm correct. Denmark's a small population anyway, 6 million, but in the Copenhagen area is most of those people, the capital city. So you do see a lot of them, to be honest. And just to let you know, the number one Google cocktail bar in Copenhagen is owned by a black man named Dexter, Jamaican descent. So people should know that. If you're familiar with Copenhagen, near the lakes, it's just 30 seconds from the lakes. You should visit it. And but there's reports. You can find reports about the black population in Denmark online. You can research it, and you see they're in news media, they're in education, school, they're in the health sector, they're in business. I know a black American woman who worked for Maersk for many years. She works for Lego now in another part of the country. She works in Lego in Jylland. You see what I'm saying? So I think you're mistaking Denmark for some other country, you know? Yeah.
Eroding in terms of electoral support for decades. But actually, the erosion of the support for the Danish Social Democrats has been slower.
Harbo Nip said, oh shit. Harbo Nip said Reyes is studying coonology. Yeah. I think, and damn, I hope he's not spending a lot of money on that, because that shit is garbage, man. He's supposed to know better, man.
Than other places. And therefore, I think the Trump debacle and the Green...
Ooh, listen to this. Listen to this. Listen to this part right here.
But actually, the erosion of the support for the Danish Social Democrats has been slower than other places. And therefore, I think the Trump debacle and the Greenland crisis gave her, as your correspondent mentioned, a bump in the approval ratings, and she thought maybe I can use that momentum going into the elections to stop the erosion of the support. That didn't happen, but the fragmentation of the political landscape around her still makes her the most likely person to lead the government going forward.
Now, a correspondent just then suggested that the Trump question regarding Greenland wasn't such a decisive factor at the end of the day. Would you agree with that assessment?
On one hand, it is she very much tried to play on that. The trouble is that she's been forming this broad center government with a minister of foreign affairs and a minister for defense, who also played important roles in the battle with Trump in relation to the rearmament of Denmark, in relation to European integration, in relation to Ukraine. So we have the three leading characters of the three parties that...
You know, yeah, it's true. You know, the issue with Russia, you know, Putin invading Ukraine, a lot of people may not know this, but just to reference it, because it's an important point in understanding what's going on also in Europe, but what's going on in the Baltic Sea, right? And let's see here. So let me zoom out a little bit so people can get a view of this, what it really looks like and what's going on here. Let me see here. So here we have it, right? So this is the Baltic Sea, and you can see Sjælland. This is Denmark. This is in this side of Denmark, where it says Aarhus, you know, Aalborg, Herning, you know, these places. This is called Jylland, right? I guess you would spell it Jutland, something like that. In English, you would pronounce it Jutland, but in Danish, it's pronounced Jylland, right? This is Fyn. This island here in the middle, you can't see it, but this little dark green areas, that's water, right? So these are water passages, sea passages also, right? And that's called Fyn, the center island. And then Sjælland is Sjælland. That's where Copenhagen is. Copenhagen is all the way to the west of Sjælland, right? So, but this is the Baltic Sea, right? And to get through the Baltic Sea, you have to pass Denmark. You have to. So that's what makes Denmark a pretty prominent nation and a significant nation. It has been for 1,000 years because of this. You see what I'm saying? So its location. Now, if you zoom out here, you go further, you can see all these other Baltic states. This is the Baltics, and this is the Scandinavian on the other side of the Baltic Sea, right? Depends on what you want to call it. But right here at the end of the Baltic Sea, right here at this point, the eastern part is Russia. So they have access to the Baltic Sea. So this issue about Ukraine, right? Even though Ukraine is down here, Russia is above Ukraine, right above Ukraine. It still affects what's going on here. You see what I mean? And people may not be able to understand why. But number one, Russia has a history with all these states and trying to invade them all. All of them. Nobody in these states want Russia, you know, invading their ass. Okay. Belarus is the only one that signed on for that and said, fuck it. We'll be a vessel state for Russia. Everybody else in the region wants to be a free state where they vote and they decide things themselves as the people they are. Right. So when Putin invaded Ukraine, And they did invade Ukraine, despite what disinformation propagandists, try to tell people every day. They did invade Ukraine. And Denmark is one of the countries that's been concerned about it, because they're very aware, being on the Baltic Sea, the threats of Russia, submarines, hybrid warfare that Russia has been presenting to countries like this, including Denmark. It's been going on for a long time, longer than what people in the United States have been aware of, right? Because it's European news. It's not U.S. news, right? So they're very much aware of that. So they signed on to support Ukraine deeply. So they made it easy for refugees from the conflict to come to Denmark, be a part of the workforce, things like this, right? Not only Denmark, but in any case, so people know. So that created this war right here, changed a political situation, because people in Denmark, they didn't want to feel threatened. You know what I mean? That's where they kind of drew the line. And so they did start upping their military, like, very quickly. Ironically, Trump tried to make all the, claims of it and things like this. This is rhetoric that Trump has been talking for years, right? But it's real threats on the ground while they've been responding this way. And so in any case, they've been spending a lot of money. So it's been for over a decade, since this war with Ukraine has started. This has been a contentious issue about security, and not just with weapons, cyber security, to security against hybrid attack, all kinds of stuff, just security across the board. So Denmark has been concerned with that and will probably remain that way. So, but at the same time, the public doesn't want the politicians forgetting that these things shouldn't be at the expense of national politics inside of the country. You see what I mean? Like, things that need to be done, things that need to continue to expand and stuff like this. So that's just a little short moment on what's going on in Denmark and how the politics are working. But it seems to be pretty steady. It's nothing wrong with wanting, it's nothing wrong with, how can I say this? Wanting to make sure your politicians don't forget what's happening on the ground for everyday people in the work market, and and the elderly and the sick and the students. Yeah, that kind of thing.
Important roles in the battle with Trump in relation to the rearmament.
Taybon, what's up?
In relation to European integration, in relation to Ukraine. So we have the three leading characters of the three parties that, in the Danish public's eyes, have been steering through this troubled water. They were all vying for the position as prime minister. At the same time, the domestic politics that these three parties have been conducting have not been very popular. So there's been this erosion of the center parties and more support for the left wing and for the right wing.
Yeah. Now you see. This is interesting because Trump's administration has made a big push across Europe to right-wing governments. Like, they have tried to push the populations of people, of Europeans, more towards the right wing. It appears to have backfired. It appears to have backfired. Like, not saying Mette Frederiksen is not from the right or right-wing party. She's from a left-center party. But some of that party's things can be considered right-wing, right? Some of them, and that's up for Danish citizens to debate or whatever. I'm not a Danish citizen, so I don't vote in this election. I only vote in the local Copenhagen election, right? And right, so that's different. But the parties like my own, the party I vote for, Enhedslisten, this time I'm not only, I follow different parties, but Enhedslisten has done a lot for Copenhagen, so I usually support Enhedslisten. But yeah, it's interesting to see Trump's politic backfire. It didn't push people in Denmark more right wing. His words towards Denmark pushed them more to the left. That's so fucking funny. That means Danes don't mind a fucking fight, especially with Trump. Like, seriously, that's what that means, man. They're not going for it. They're not going for it here. And yeah, that's just interesting results. It's interesting results. But let's, in any case, so people heard about that. I'm happy to live in a country where there's different parties and where everybody gets a little say. I'm happy with that. I don't like my own country's politics and how we do things. I think it's too partisan, and I think it's very un-American, meaning it's not for the American people first. They lie. MAGA lied when they said that. There was nothing about that policy that was supportive of American citizens. They didn't want to increase health care for American citizens, make it more accessible for American citizens. That's not what they ran on. They didn't want education to be more accessible for American citizens. They didn't run on that. They didn't want housing to be. There's nothing about that. This last election was only about scapegoating immigrants. And Trump is, he's a second generation immigrant himself. His grandparents came to the U.S. So, I mean, it shows you how bizarre the concept is for a second generation immigrant. Stephen Miller, too, first generation. He's like, his parents came, I think, or his grandpa. I think it was his parents, Stephen Miller. Some of these people, first, second generation immigrants, they hate fucking immigrants. Like, it's crazy. They're fixated with it. My family goes back to the colonial period on both sides. I'm not fixated with fucking immigrants. I'm fixated with values, norms, standards, things that everybody already agreed people should have in the richest country on earth. Every other Western country have it. Western values are education, healthcare, union wage jobs. That's Western values. What Trump is talking about has nothing to do with Western values at all. Zero to do with it. It's crazy, man. It's crazy.
A little bit about a major election issue that we've been hearing about time and time again, the cost of living crisis. Frederickson, of course, presiding over.
Right, and of course, this war with Ukraine, it's the energy wars. You know what I mean? It's even felt in Denmark. It's felt in Denmark, although Denmark is set up to deal with these issues a lot better than most countries, to be honest with you, because Denmark is diverse with energy. It's not a single energy country. It's multi-pronged energy approach, right? So Denmark has its own oil and gas too. They pump it out of the Baltic Sea, right? But they're big on green energy, so they're diversified, wind and other things. So Denmark is one of the countries that went full into green energy, so they've been spared, but there's still a little inflation, and it still has a way of affecting all the costs around. The difference is that the inflation is not as high as it's not felt as much as it is in the U.S. No, the inflation here is not. I'll give you an example. My rent went up, but to be honest, I've been living in my flat here about 13 years. This flat that I live in now, since 2013. So that's about 13 years, right? My rent has gone up, about $500 in 13 years? You see what I'm saying? So, and it's still under, for the size of it, it's not even comparable to Washington, D.C. The inflation in the capital of Denmark is nothing like the inflation in Washington, D.C. It's nothing like the inflation in New York City. It's nothing like the inflation in Chicago and Los Angeles. None of these major cities. It's not there at all. So, it's managed. I would say this. It's managed better. It's managed better. And now gas, of course, costs more, but Denmark's not a one-pronged country. So people aren't forced to buy gas. There's L cars everywhere. When you leave the house, there's L rental cars. You don't have to own a fucking car in Denmark. You can just rent whatever car you want whenever you want to rent a car. and most of them are L vehicles, whether they're luxury cars or not. It's like that. You don't have to own a fucking car. I got a parking space I don't even have a car for, a private parking space. I don't even have a car anymore. I got rid of my car. I just take public transport. I take the damn metro or the bus. I get to my job in 20 minutes, 30 minutes. That's it. If I want to take a ride outside of Denmark or a ride to different parts of the countryside, I can just rent a car. That's it. Why own a car? It's too much responsibility. I don't need it, so why own it? But in any case, let's go on.
Rising prices, a lot of discontent among Danish people. Just how much has that particular issue affected the outcome for the Prime Minister today?
I think it made a difference, particularly for some of the very right-wing parties that actually have been campaigning on that issue from way back from the corona inflation. It kind of waned in the public attention, but then came Trump's war on Iran. So the hiking gas prices the last couple of weeks actually, in that sense, helped some of the most critical parties towards the center government. So
you hear that? Trump helped. Basically, Trump helped the left wing, the left center. I mean, and the left center is more left than the Democratic Party in the U.S. You know what I mean? The left center is more left than the Democratic Party. Because at least the left center believes in goddamn education for everyone. They believe in health care for everyone. They believe elder care for everyone. They believe everybody should have 5 weeks vacation a year. Everybody, whether you have a job or not. That's the left center party in Denmark. Man, Americans got a lot to learn, man, from their Western allies, if they want to, though. Nobody's forcing Americans to do nothing, though. That's the one thing about the U.S. You can't force these motherfuckers to do a goddamn thing, even if it's in their best interest. They can be hard fucking headed,
It made a difference in the end, I'm sure.
I'm reading here that if the results announced by the exit polls are confirmed, the centrist moderate party is likely to become the kingmaker with 14 seats. How do you think moderate party... I'm reading here that if the results announced by the exit polls are confirmed, the centrist moderate party is likely to become the kingmaker with 14 seats.
Yeah, but they did that also before. That I believe they were still the kingmakers the last election.
How do you think the moderate party might sway the final aspect of the coalition government that comes out of this election?
Actually, we have two different major TV channels in Denmark, and they have a different exit polls, so they don't agree exactly on the role of the moderates. And on top of that, there is a number of the centrist parties that might conceivably be moved around. Plus, we're still waiting for any kind of indications of what members.
Okay, so this, let me show you something. This person said in the chat, so why don't you leave then? He's talking about me in Denmark. Well, I can tell you why I live here. First of all, because I have the right to live here. I'm not breaking any law about living here. It's called being a dual resident. I don't know if you ever heard of that. What's this guy's name? Let me put his picture back up. This is the guy who said it. I don't commit crimes. What's the problem? I work. I've owned a business. I know more about the country than you do. I know more about the country than a lot of people do. I love Denmark. Denmark is basically my home now. But I have a lot of great friends here. My family lives here too. My children live here, who I also love. But I got a lot of great friends, and I'm very active in Danish society, and I also speak and read and write the language. So why would you expect me to leave? I No, go to New York or New Jersey. I'm from Washington, D.C., man. I've already traveled. I didn't move to Denmark as a child. I moved to Denmark as a grown-ass man, okay? I'm 55 years old. I was 30 when I first came to Denmark. But I've lived in New York also, just so you know. I know what it's like, and I have plenty of friends that I talk to every day in the U.S. from all over. Some of them are here. You can see people from Chicago, people from California, a lot of people in the military. We know about New Jersey, buddy. What I'm trying to tell you is that even New Jersey inflation is managed worse than Denmark. That's what I'm telling you. You know what I'm saying? I'm just telling you flat out. You know, you should look into that. You know what I'm saying? Like, you should really look into it and don't just take a snapshot. Deep dive, man. Deep dive. You know. And get some qualifying information also from fellow Americans that live in Denmark. Do you know how many Americans? Let me ask you, Joseph, do you know how many Americans live in Denmark? Joseph, do you know how many Americans live in Denmark? Anybody know? I mean, whatever your name, Joseph, is that what it is? I mean, in Danish, that's pronounced Joseph. So Joseph and Joseph, I know you don't know this, but they're actually the same. And I'm in Denmark, but it's not important. That's not important unless you totally offended by that. But here, I want to know something. How many Americans live in Denmark, Joseph? Do you know? Because you said, why don't you leave? Why would I leave? I don't get that. Okay, yeah, Joseph is not trying to really be constructive. He's just pissed off at his own life. So he's mad that he's mad that his life is suffering and shit, you know. And that's okay. I get it. But for those of you that want to know, there's a lot of expats in Denmark. And a lot of expats that live across Europe, you know, but Denmark is definitely over 10,000 expats like myself that live here. By the way, y'all, here, let me go over. Let me show you. There's a demonstration here in front of the American embassy. And you know what we doing? You know, most of us over here, we understand that healthcare is a great thing. Universal healthcare is a worthwhile thing for American citizens to endeavor in the United States. And universal education for American citizens is also another thing we can learn. And how can we say that? Because Americans that live here have grown up and lived in the U.S. pretty much most of their lives and then moved abroad and learned some things. And so they can qualify what it's like to live in both places, not just theoretically, but practically. You know what I'm saying? Real life experience, like really. So we can kind of see through the lies of legacy media, whether it's CNN or whether it's Fox, because they're not really going to tell you the truth about what your tax dollars get spent on, right? No, they're not. They're not going to tell you that every other Western country has universal health care and universal education. No, they wouldn't. Why would they do that? I mean, because, you know, they want more money for themselves. So, and as long as there's Americans like you, Joseph, that don't support those things, they're going to continue down that path. You know, but let me see here. There's an actual where is the damn? I gotta find that. I didn't put it up here. I gotta put that up. As a matter of fact, 2 seconds. Let me put this up right now. 2 seconds. There's a demonstration. And where is it at? There's a demonstration. Here it is. Is it here? Oh, how could it not go up? Okay, let me put both of them up real quick. 2 seconds. Yeah, there's 2 new demonstrations here. So did I put it on this page? Let me see here. Post, right? It's this Saturday. There's a demonstration in front of the U.S. Embassy. Let me see here. It starts at 1 to 2 o'clock. But did I put the poster up? No, I didn't put the damn poster up. So let me put that poster up right now. Boom, and see, here we go. Yeah, so people can actually review it. I don't know why I didn't do that already. Is it here? Yeah, view post. Okay. Yeah, here we go. Now share. But where can I share it to? Here it is. Okay. So I'm going to put that on my YouTube page right now. For people that are interested, those of you that are in Copenhagen area this Saturday from 1 to 2, there's a demonstration at the American Embassy in Copenhagen. Come through. Just like many of the, there's been loads of demonstrations here. Military people from the Danish military demonstrated. American citizens over here have been demonstrating. Yeah. So, and I'm going to go there and go live from that demonstration so people can actually get a chance to see what it looks like. Now, now that I did that, I can open it up over here so you can see. It's called, what did they call this one? I actually co-arranged the last one, but I didn't co-arrange this one, but it doesn't matter. Americans over here kind of take turns doing this, but Democrats abroad is going to be there. Here we go. This is the No Tyrants demonstration at the U.S. Embassy. Let me take this off. So that's this Saturday. If you're on Facebook, you can feel free to go through there and, and click on the link if you want to attend. It's called No Tyrants Global Day of Action, March 28th from 1 to 2 p.m. The U.S. Embassy, Dalshammer Skills, Alley 17. Okay. Yeah. And, I'm sorry, Daghammer Skills, Alley 17, Copenhagen, Denmark. Right. So, and Christian's not one of the organizers, but he just put the page up for the organizers. But I think we're all kind of helping out. People have been chipping in with small little details and stuff like that. But that's one. And then, so make sure you do that. And then after that, I actually have to go. I'm going to be attending another event right after that, which is at, where's the event at? Let me see here. The event is at, what is it called? I think it's Stingel 50 Folkehuset. I think it's at Stingel 50 in Norbro, right? I got to get the flyer up for people. I will post that in a little bit, but that starts at 3:00. I'll be there at 3:00. So that's at Stingel 50, right? And for people that don't know, that's the Stone Street in English, Stingel, Stengade, and number 50. And I'll be there attending another. It's like for activists here. I'm not sure who the activists are, but I believe it's about people of African descent. By the way, it's about black people of African descent in Denmark that live here. So people who said there's no black people in Denmark. No, there's a lot of black people in Denmark. But I wouldn't say it's like the main, it's the biggest population of foreigners. It's not. It is probably one of the smaller populations of ethnic groups, you could say, if you can call people of African descent one ethnic group. In that sense. But it's about combating discrimination, and it's not to be antagonistic or anything. It's about just understanding that certain groups don't get tracked, don't have surveys, don't, like in Denmark's pretty big on human and civil rights, right? But when you don't have the biggest population of people in terms of a minority group, you don't tend to get tracked. People don't come to survey you as much, right? So that's what this meeting is about. Just to make sure that the profile is lifted so people are more aware. And as somebody said that early in the chat, they didn't even know any black people lived in Denmark, but that's not the case. Many do. Others do. Many other groups of people do. People around Europe, people around the Middle East, people from Africa, people from South America, Cubans. As a matter of fact, Afro-Colombian is organizing the event this Saturday at Stingel 50. It's an Afro-Colombian organizing it. A lady, I forget her name, because I haven't been too active in the activism in the last couple of years. I've been kind of taking a break, but I have the privilege of going to sit on this panel. So I'll be one of the people speaking briefly and then also taking some questions. So those of you that are interested in that topic, everyone is welcome. Feel free to come through, ask some questions. By the way, click the like button for a brother, because to be honest, like I tell people, I am pretty active as a member of Danish society. But I'm lighthearted about it. You see what I mean? And I have a reputation for being lighthearted and being easy to communicate with, and being open to people without being overbearing. You know what I'm saying? So, so there we go. Now, let's get back to this news. There's been more interesting news here now to get back on the U.S. stuff. How's it going with the negotiations for Trump? This affects everybody, by the way, but because Trump has made a call to Europeans to come and help him in this war, right? That him and Netanyahu started privately without consulting anyone else. He wants people to come now and help, and he's expressed disappointment that although he didn't talk to people in advance, that they're just not coming after, like people don't have other concerns. Like they just going to do whatever Netanyahu says or whatever Trump says. No, actually, motherfuckers ain't doing anything Netanyahu says or Trump. They staying out of it, and they have said this. And let me show you. I mean, talk about the election. Peep this shit. Peep this. This is crazy. Just peep game here. Look, let me show you something. This is what the prime minister has been saying about this whole fiasco with Trump. This is crazy, but it's real. Before I play this shit, let me just remind people of what they actually said. So people can be up to date on this. Let me see. Now, where did they say this shit at? Where is it at? Oh, here we go. This is what they're saying. Peep game. Let's go over. Here we go. Oh, is it not here? Viktor Orban? No. Let me go backwards. I'm sorry. How did I miss that? Here it is. Here we go. Can you guys hear that?
In all countries. The speech you gave in Davos, I have never experienced anything like this. I mean, people in Denmark, and I guess the same goes for the rest of the Nordic countries, have been talking about, they have been reading your speech. And I don't think...
She's talking about Prime Minister Carney's speech from Canada about that he gave at Davos, responding to Trump's adolescent behavior and the fact that the U.S. has changed course and other nations need not follow.
I have ever heard so many reflections on a speech from a colleague as I have heard about your speech in Davos. And it is because you show leadership. You were talking about how democracies can work together and that we have to connect even closer in this world where the old world order is gone and it will probably not come back. So we have to build something new. And it has to be a world order that is built on the values that we represent, the leaders standing in front of you today. I am very grateful, I have to say this, for all the help we have received in the Kingdom of Denmark, Greenland and Denmark. We have had a totally unacceptable pressure from US and the US president. It has been very difficult for the people in Greenland to experience this. And one of the reasons why we have been able to stand firmly on very common values, that you have to respect sovereign states, that you have to respect a people's right for self-determination, is because of our good friends in the Nordic countries, in Europe, but also with partners outside, especially you, Mark. So from the bottom of my heart, thank you for that. Now we have to continue our work. We are deepening our cooperation in the Arctic region. It is important. We are deepening our cooperation also militarily in our own region, not only the Arctic, but also more locally in the northern part of Europe. It's going I think, in the right direction. But with everything going on now, with the war going on in Ukraine, U.S. unfortunately lifting up sanctions on Russia, a war in Middle East. Countries like ours have to stand together. We have to stick together, and we have to work together, and that is what we have committed ourselves to do once again. So thank you, Jonas, for.
Right. So, yeah, that was the Danish Prime Minister speaking about Trump. Now, Jonas, the Prime Minister of, let me see here, is this Finland? I believe had some comments here. Oh, I'm sorry, Norway. Now, at the same meeting, this is the Prime Minister of Norway. Just to give you an idea of how Trump has, changed the politics, and not necessarily in his favor. Like Trump representing the right wing of Europe in my opinion, it hurt the right wing. It bolstered up the center and the left, because of his rhetoric. They can see a clear example of how this rhetoric in the United States has caused chaos in the United States. They've seen how this party, the MAGA party, the one that's all about the right wing stuff, right, have brought all these new ideas in that have devastated the United States and life for the American people even more. You might be able to argue that the dollar's doing strong, even though the country's in 40 something trillion dollars debt, only $6.6 trillion of assets. Where is that ever good? But again, go ahead, argue that the dollar is strong, but the American people ain't feeling that strong. The American people are suffering right now. So let's just hear this also.
I think we are not part of this war. We didn't.
There it is. We're not part of this war. That is basically the gist of what's going on here in the Baltic states and or in the Baltic Isles. The Baltic Isles, whether it's Scandinavian side or the Baltic side of the Baltic Isles, right? That's what's going on. So that will give you some idea about this is ridiculous, about what is happening right here with Trump's negotiations here. Let's see.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to this DW live stream. We're live from Berlin. Today, we're asking who is talking. Are negotiations to end the Iran war really underway? If they are, who's actually involved?
It's a good question, and we'll take a closer look at key regional players.
If they are.
In what is a delicate situation in this conflict. One of those is Turkey. We're going to be going there as well. I'm Anthony Howard, by the way.
I'm Manu Coopers at McKinnon. So today we're looking at off-ramps and endgames to the war on Iran. The US President Donald Trump on Monday morning announced in all caps that he was delaying attacks on Iran's energy infrastructure after what he said were productive talks with Iran. Take a listen to the president. He was talking on camera just after he said that.
We have had very, very strong talks. We'll see where they lead.
So this is the president that Europeans are not running to rescue. They're not coming to rescue Trump's presidency by joining a war. They're not coming to rescue Elon Musk's presidency, Peter Thiel's presidency, the billionaire class and how they're doing business in the United States. They're not coming to rescue the Republican Party. They're not coming to rescue MAGA. They just like, these motherfuckers are crazy. Wow. They had no idea the U.S. right wing was like that. You know what I'm saying? Because it's not normal. It's beyond. It's like fucking Scooby-Doo right wing. It is like, it's just bizarre. It is just bizarre. And but that is what his this new regime has sprung out of. You know what I mean? And it has been a cautionary tale for everyone else in NATO, how that kind of politics is not going to help your country. So nobody else wants their economy looking like the U.S. in the Western world. No one else wants to engage the world the way Trump is engaging it. They're like, oh, hell fucking no. They're like, why do we engage the world that way when we can be partners with the world? We can trade with the world. We can bring industry to the world. Trump doesn't want to bring industry. We'll bring industry. And we can do that to trade for other things. We need fruits and vegetables here in Europe. We're willing to do tax-free fruits and vegetables to, bring costs down. on fruit. Yeah, that's what they're talking about. We're willing to bring windmills to Brazil. You know what I'm saying? Energy, diversify energy. They're willing to do these kind of trade deals. If the United States doesn't think that these are good things to do, they're all doing it. Every place that Trump said, fuck you, we're not going, the EU said, oh, well, let's go there then, since they don't want to go. That's exactly what's happening right now. They signed the biggest trade deal in EU history, two of the biggest trade deals in the history of the EU. One with Asia, the first one with South America, and the second one with Asia. So Europeans aren't standing still, waiting for this zombie Trump to focus on bettering his own people's lives by engaging the world with respect. They're not waiting on this motherfucker. They're like, fuck him. Is this guy on a suicide path? And he is. He's on a suicide path. And unfortunately, the Supreme Court, the Congress, and the Senate are along on that suicide path with Trump. They are together in this. They are going to sink the fucking country, and they're on it. They're just going to hang. They're just going to do it because you're paying them to do it. You know, see, that's the difference. You're actually paying people a salary through your tax dollars that literally don't give a fuck. They don't give a fuck. You know, it's just sad. They don't literally give a goddamn. As a matter of fact, let me bring up the link. You know, let me put this link up here because yeah, I forgot to do that. That way, if somebody has any particular you know, views about what's going on, they can ask me some questions. They can get, you know, we can all hear their voice, and I can ask them some questions back, right? So here we go. Anybody that want to come up and have a real dialogue, hop your ass on up. I'm happy to have you. You know, there's a Discord logo on the screen, and that's there so people know you can put Discord on your phone and you can hop up and call and you can talk, right? And we can have a long conversation. We can have a detailed conversation about any of these matters that we're discussing here. Now, of course, Americans don't believe all Americans should have health care. That's not what goes on in the United States. Americans don't believe all Americans should have affordable access to education. They don't believe that. These are not American values, right? And if they were American values, the United States has been the richest, most powerful country on earth for a long time. Why wouldn't it have its way if it's the most powerful one? So you're seeing the values right now of the United States. And yes, the values are right now, they are these things that, you know, the rich get richer, the poor get poorer. You know, they point at the poor and say, pull yourself up by your bootstraps. A person that's middle class sometimes gets confused and thinks, wow, you know, you didn't work hard like me, when they don't realize, no, you getting scammed, man. You're the biggest, you're the one getting scammed the most because you work 40 hours a week and still can't even fucking afford healthcare. What kind of goddamn country is that? What kind of country is that? Where the middle class is struggling like the poor? Like, goddamn. How do you be middle class and you can't afford fucking education? Just like the poor. How are you middle class and you can't afford healthcare? These are basic things. This is not like saying, I want to take a cruise to Honolulu. These are basic things. That's not fancy. Access to education and healthcare is not fancy. It's not luxury. It's not luxury, but people that just barely get access to it act like that's like, I'm living it up. I'm living the life up, man. My healthcare, you know, I mean, right now, let me know this. Right now, what state do you live in if you live in the United States of America, and who is your healthcare provider? Especially if you've never been in this chat before, if you're new to this chat, because I typically ask this question every goddamn day because I really want to have qualifying information that I can point back at some of your comments with, because some of these people are goddamn hard-headed, man. You know, it's like they're talking like they're Teflon and actually are a couple of paychecks away from being thrown out on the street in the United States of America. you know? So here, let's go, everybody. Also, Joseph, whatever your name is. Shit, how the fuck would I know how to say your name? Goddamn. Yo, what the fuck? I have a friend, a close friend whose name is spelled exactly like that, and he's called Joseph. So, in any case, here, let me put this in. Hop on up. Let's see if there's any challengers. Any challengers out here? Anybody? Where you at? London in the house. What's up? There you go, London. Thank you for joining. I'm here. I'm an American, and I'm just, I'm talking about a lot of the failures that my countrymen have made in electing Donald J. Trump. Amish I am. Oh, you're welcome. There you go. Come on in here. Amish are good people. Yo, Amish are good people, though. I mean, there's a lot of good Americans. You know what I'm saying? Unfortunately, Trump ain't one of them. And Elon Musk isn't either, man. Elon Musk don't give a goddamn about the Amish. You know, and yeah, period. Every day. Yo, this is so funny. Nah, man, it's not that Joseph. It's that your name is pronounced in different languages, many different ways. And I live in a country where that name you have, the way it's spelled, is pronounced Joseph. Okay. It's not a problem, buddy. It's called a soft J. Okay. That's all that is. So, yeah, it's, yeah, being Amish sounds pretty cool. But hop up, Joseph. Here you go. Come on up. Let's learn a little about your situation. Come on. Come up here and let me hear your views. And, yeah. That way you don't have to put them in little, short sentences, And anybody else. Here we go. Jazzy. Yo, who else? Let me see. Am I getting any invites on this thing? Okay, no, that's just Steve there. That's Friars. Come on, y'all. Hop on up. Yeah, what's wrong with Elon? He's from Australia. Exactly. Thank you. No, he's from he's from South Africa, Australia, and now the United States. Okay, he's got 3 passports. That's what's wrong with his ass. And he's all up in American tax dollars, providing him personal welfare checks every fucking month. I mean, people in the U.S. care more about the quality of Elon Musk's life than their own goddamn neighbors. This is really the lowest of low. You know what I mean? Like, I don't understand it, but thank God I'm an American, and I'm just going to say, I had a wonderful life growing up because the United States, I didn't grow up when Trump was the fucking president. Okay. I'm from the 70s. And then we had a little bit of time where you could run around and things were safe and the parks and things like this. I grew up on the Hill, Capitol Hill in DC. So it's a pretty strong middle class neighborhood. Yeah, you know what I mean? So I grew up swinging on the fucking flagpoles of different government buildings. Like, yeah, here we go. It's Sunday. What the fuck? It's Sunday, y'all. Come on, let's swing on the fucking Library of Congress flagpole. Woo! But I grew up riding my bike across the whole damn city, not having a care. You know what I'm saying? So I know what freedom is, but unfortunately, it doesn't exist like that anymore. Unfortunately, it doesn't exist like that anymore. I grew up in a house. You know what I'm saying? Yes, a home. I had my own bedroom. Yeah, I didn't have to share a bedroom. I'm not saying it's not okay, but you can share if you need to. But I didn't share. So I'm pretty privileged. You know what I'm saying? But I still know that my parents worked a little harder than should be necessary in the most powerful country on earth. I'm still intelligent enough to know that. I'm still intelligent enough to know that this shit Trump is doing makes no fucking sense. You see what I mean? I'm still intelligent enough. My mother worked in government and my father's a damn fine artist. You know what I'm saying? It's not like my parents don't read goddamn books. You know what I'm saying? But I'm still smart enough to know that the average American, because I've traveled around to different places, I've seen most of the United States of America myself just through traveling because I want to. But I've also seen outside of the world, and hearing these stories and seeing these realities has led me to a point where I realize Americans fucking work hard as shit for very little. Why is that smart? That's dumb. That's dumb. And you being bamboozled. And some of you are just locked into it. And yeah, you locked into it. Some of you, it's built into your sense of pride being bamboozled. And you're just not going to admit it because you actually thought you were better than somebody else. That's how you got in this situation. You ain't. You're actually worse. Your situation is worse and you're fucked up in the head because you actually have the nerve to think that you're better. Man, you've been fucking bamboozled, brainwashed. Exactly. What the fuck? Everybody else in the West has universal education and healthcare. And these motherfuckers in the United States think they're better off. Yeah, whatever. You better watch that shit. Everyone in Denmark has 5 fucking weeks vacation. You fucking think you're better off? What the fuck is going on with Americans right now? Yeah, man. Anyway, I somebody want to hop up? I'm going to put the link out here again. Yeah, I want to hear somebody come up and try to, say some ridiculous shit, I haven't had to curse anybody out yet that's hopped up for being utterly stupid because it hasn't been any utterly stupid people. But sometimes, there's a chance and it could be entertaining. You know what I'm saying? If one dared, come on, man. Come on. Because I am the person to fucking, to respond to some crazy shit. You know what I'm saying? I ain't going to let it ride. You're going to feel the heat. You're going to feel like, damn, after. So, but look, Tay-Bun been to Germany. She knows exactly what I'm talking about. She's from Chicago, been to Germany, and was like, what the fuck are we doing in America? Yeah, Tay, what the fuck are people doing in America? What the fuck? They're working harder for less peanuts and shit, convinced that they doing better just because the next motherfucker is out of a home and you 2 paychecks from being out of one. You think you got it better. No, it's fucking stupid. You see what I mean? Heg's Breath panel. Yeah, come on, Heg Breath. Come on, panel up. Get your ass up here, Keg Breath. Where are you at? Shit. Anybody? Any Trump supporters? Any liberal haters? Hop your ass up here because I'm going to let you have it today. All right. Yeah. So for those that don't know, basically the general message is that the center the center left parties in Denmark are way more left than the Democratic Party in the United States. And so by default, the right wing is like just some straight up extremists. They may as well just be called fucking terrorists, because there's nothing brainful about them. They want women living in the house, pregnant, barefooted, having no fucking rights. You know what I'm saying? Like they want to control people's bodies. You know what I'm saying? They're worried about other people that just want to go to goddamn work and mind their fucking business. And they sitting back angry at other people for working together, for wanting a higher minimum wage, for wanting healthcare, for wanting everyone to have healthcare. That's something you hate. What the fuck is wrong with Americans? What the fuck? If you hate the Democratic Party in the U.S., then by default, you hate all fucking Europeans, right or left, all of them. What the fuck? That's how far gone these motherfuckers in the U.S. have gone. That's how long. You know what I'm saying? Texas, $7.50 an hour minimum wage. None of them smart enough to say, I'm going to elect a governor that's going to do something about that. None of them. Not one. Yeah, this shit. I'm like, what the fuck, man? In any case, let me see. Been 27 countries in the world, visiting friends and people I've met in my professional life. Everyone asks me constantly, what is wrong with the people in our country? Yes, and Maurice Jones, thank you for that. And listen, Maurice, I say it with affection too. What you're saying, I love my. I can't even believe I'm even saying this because it almost doesn't even sound right anymore. But I actually love my country. That's why I'm saying this stuff. I love my people. That's why I'm saying this stuff. I want my people to wake the hell up. That's why I'm saying it. That's why you saying it. And it's so ironic when you show love to mentally disturbed people, they think it's hate. They think it's hate. You know, it's just insane. You know, you just can't help. You can try, but the message is not for everybody. It's for some people, and more people going to get it. Look, the clock is ticking. Every month, more people going to be kicked out of their homes, lose their mortgage, you know, lose their health care, lose more shit. And they're just going to be, sooner or later, even the right wing, all of the right wing is going to be enraged. Then you're going to know that, no, this is all goddamn trolls on the internet. You know what I'm saying? You know, because even MAGA people are like, where's my shotgun? I'm going to go kill Trump in Mar-a-Lago. You know, even MAGA people. And when young MAGA people do that, they should be scared. And that's why they're living on military bases right now. Who's on the list? I mean, how can it be? How can it be? How can they? Oh, look at this. Who's on the list? What Trump appointees live in military bases, not in their civilian homes in D.C. area with everybody else? Marco Rubio lives in a military base, too scared to live with the population of Americans. Pete Hegseth lives in a military base, too scared to live with the population of the citizens of the United States of America. Pam Bondi lives in a military housing, too scared to live among the population of everyday civilians in the United States of America. Stephen Miller, even his punk ass, too scared. Man, what's wrong with you, Stephen Miller? What the fuck, man? You goddamn first generation American parents, immigrants or some shit like this, and you scared to live with Americans? Why'd you come here, man? Live like everybody else. I live among the Danish people. I live among people. I go outside every goddamn day. I take public transport. I enjoy taking the public transport. Walk down the street, do my grocery shopping. La 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 la. Nobody's bothering me. But Stephen Miller, he can't do that. You know what I'm saying? He's scared of Americans. You know, Kristi Noem, military base, scared to live with the American people. Daniel P. Driscoll, scared to live with the American people. I mean, this is utter ridiculousness. This utter ridiculousness. These are some punk asses. They punk asses, like straight up. You know, they're punk asses. Look at this. I want to show y'all this. I want to show you who. Somebody just erased that comment. Oh, Edward. Okay, I was about to show people. I wanted people to see this because people need to see how the game works. You know, but we will get. People try to get funny with these comments. By the way, you know, let's go on here. Fuck it. We know that there's no negotiations going on. That's just another goddamn negotiate these nuts, Trump. Okay, all right now. So he wanted to lie. Now let's hear some Fox News. This is the other side of the. You know, I'll see you on the other side. This is Fox News, and this is what they're talking about. They're saying Trump wants to put ground troops. Which one is it, man? Are you negotiating or are you putting ground troops? But 5,000 ground troops ain't going to do shit, homie. Like, wake up, man. The invasion of Iraq took 200,000 NATO forces on the ground, on the fucking border, to invade a flat country like Iraq. And he's talking about sending 5,000 Marines to Iran. Man, get the fuck out of here, man. You think people can't count? This is crazy.
More troops to the Middle East, even while the talks are continuing through intermediaries, as the Strait of Hormuz remains effectively closed, and that's got to change. So what could actually change things and maybe put us in control of the Strait? Let's take a look at what's on its way. First off, you got two carriers that are coming our direction. You got the 11th Marine Expeditionary Unit coming on this ship. About 2,500 Marines are coming. And then you have the USS Tripoli and 31st Marine Expeditionary Unit, both coming from Japan. And look at what they contain. They got Ospreys, they got armored vehicles, amphibious assault ships to get them onto shore. Now, where could they be heading? Well, if they're going to see some contact, it's going to be right here in the Strait. And some of the key islands, you hear a lot about Karg Island, but there's also...
Right. So he's going to hypothesize where could they be heading, not where are they heading. Yeah, let me see here. Tanya says, I love public transport in London, trains, buses, and trams. I'm sorry. I took the Eurostar train to Paris Yeah, 2.5 hours. It was so quick. Yeah. The train system around Europe is pretty cool, actually. It's run well and it's efficient, and it's not far. The countries are close together. That's what's a little interesting. I find interesting as an American living in Europe, because you just go a certain distance and you're in another country. They speak another language. They might have some different their culture is a little different, things like that, and you get to enjoy things like that you wouldn't expect. Like, listen, one of the I know a lot of people have been to Italy and they talk about it, but Italy is, when you talk about culture, food culture, culinary culture, Italy is up there with France. But here's one thing that is really special about Italy. You can go to every town and they have their own special liquor that they make from products from that town, and they're serving food from the particular town. It's, homegrown restaurants where the food that is served, it comes from that particular town. The dishes are made from there's special dishes from this particular town named after the town even. You see what I mean? And going town to town, I'm talking about small towns. People have what are the snails, for example? The snails are from that town where that restaurant is. Beef is from that town where that restaurant is. Lettuce, vegetables from that town, wine from that town, liquor, lemon made from lemons, liquor made from pears, liquor made from whatever from that town. And these are things that I think when you're in the US, you have stuff like that, but we don't understand it because we've distanced ourselves from a lot of that. You know what I mean? We could still have it even though we're the same country, because there are different cultures and there's different histories around the United States of America. But just our everyday people have kind of, waned away from it. But we do have good international cuisine, and Americans love great food. And, we got, I love it, actually. I grew up being able to order food from any place in the world in Washington, D.C. I could order Vietnamese food that's excellent. I could order Jamaican food that's African food that's excellent, Italian food, French food. I could order food. I mean, I grew up as a kid, it's in my teenagers, going to Georgetown in the middle of the night eating French cuisine. You know what I'm saying? You know what I mean? Like, straight up. You know what I'm saying? You could do that all over DC, So DC was a good place to grow up in. I really like that. You could go to an Italian restaurant. You know what I'm saying? I don't know how many of you know the Hill area. Also, there used to be a spot. It's a famous spot called Machiavelli's. I don't know if it's there anymore. It was owned by the same person that owned Mr. Henry's. The original Mr. Henry's there though. But it's they had some great Italian food there and things like that. Beer in Germany. Yeah, Germany got some great beer, man. You can get a wide variety of great beer. Stromboli Island near Sicily. There you go. Oh, okay, let me look at the chat here. Tanya says, yes, I love Italy. I love it so much. I've been 4 times. So affordable. Yeah, Italy is a great place. It got a lot of history too. You can see with your own eyes. It's affordable to get around. But some great sights and great food. I'm going to Spain, by the way, pretty soon in like 3 weeks from now, something like that. That's going to be nice. I'm going to go down there and check out some sites and get some local cuisine and things like that. Check out the water and things like this. But yeah, that's the good thing about Europe. A couple of hours you're in another country. In Copenhagen, 15 minutes you're in Sweden from here. So even though it's very similar in culture, it's still a different language, and there are some differences. Sweden and Norway are mountainous. Denmark is flat, and the culture is a little different. You know what I mean? Although they're all Scandinavian, And then once you leave the Scandinavia, then you could go to Poland. You can go to that direction, Finland. You could go to Czechoslovakia. You could go to Estonia, or you could go to the southern part of Europe. You could go to Germany. You could go to France. You could go to Amsterdam. Amsterdam is pretty fly. Netherlands is pretty fly also. It's a lot you can do in Europe and experience different things. And don't sleep on Denmark, though. They got an island called Bornholm. If people are into traveling, if you come to Denmark, This is a historic site that you will learn a lot about Danish culture and the significance of Denmark in history. Like, I actually went there maybe a couple of years ago, something like that. Maybe not even maybe a year ago, man, to Bornholm. But I've been to Bornholm before. It's not that. But let me see here. Hammershus. And they have a museum here. Here we go. Hammershus Castle, right? Now, if you go here, come on now. There it is. If you can see that. They have these castle ruins. And let me just come over to this real quick. See if I can get that off of the screen. Come on now. Here we go. So you have Hammers. There it is. You see that? So this is on the island of Bornholm, Hammershus Slot, right? And right, and this is on Bornholm, the island of Bornholm, and this is between Sweden and Denmark. It's really between Sweden and Poland, actually, but it's part of Denmark. This little island here. I don't know if you can see it now. It's in the center of the screen in the water, right? That little island there. And but they have this, and when you go to this slot, there's a museum there. Slot is a castle, right? And when you go to this historic castle, right? I'll go back here. I will write Hammershus again, right? Here we go. There's a museum, and they tell you all about the significance of this castle, right? And this castle, my God, look at this. It dates back to 1200. You see what I'm saying? Yes. You see that, right? Ruins of an imposing castle built by the church in 1200 plus an exhibition, right? So when you go there, you find out the significance, what happened. And this was a turning point when Denmark became Christianized, right? This was a turning point because this is where the castle was. Right, the arts, what is it? The religious figures castle, right? I forget who it is. Is it the Lutherans or one of them, right? But in any case, this was a turning point for Denmark because they discovered salt, and that empowered the country. The discovery of salt actually created a boom, a renaissance. You know what I'm saying? Like seriously, like no joke. And as you could see, back in those days, all of this was frozen over. You could walk from Bornholm to Sweden, right across the water. You could walk from Bornholm to Poland in the winter, not in the summer, obviously, but you can go there. They got a wonderful museum also, and you will learn a lot about Denmark right from this place right here. The Danish people, the history of Denmark. And for those that are interested in it, you know, it might seem, you might think it's insignificant, but I'm a history buff. You know what I mean? So I took my kids there also. And for me, I found it to be very enlightening, very interesting, and very important to the region, like to understand the story of Hammershus, right? And the development of Denmark from that period on. 1200 years ago is a long time. The year 1200 is a long time ago. You see what I mean? And I think Americans forget what it's like to contemplate a country's history that far back and still be in it. You see what I mean? And it's like that for Europeans. When they think of their country, they're thinking of it in a different way than Americans are thinking of it. I think what happened in the U.S. is that we're not thinking about it like it's our country. We're thinking about it like we're occupiers. And the reason why I say that is because if it was our country, we would treat it well. We would treat the animals well. We would treat the inhabitants well. We would, treat each other well, regardless of what political party, regardless of your social status. We would treat each other better. And so it's just something to reflect on, one of the differences I've found, but let's see here. I know I diverted a little bit, but you know what? I see nobody's hopped up, yo. Nobody's trying to hop up. State by state. Okay, well, I'm gonna put this up. 79th block party sound like some. Yeah, it sound like something. Shit, the U.S. have a lot of block parties. Don't get me wrong. I'm not dissing our culture in the U.S. because there's a lot of positive things there, but I just mean there's a difference, especially with the right wing in America. The right wing is not preserving much about American history. Yeah, I see you say. They don't talk about it like it's something to be proud of. You know what I mean? And when I hear Danes review their history, they tend to be a little more proud of it. Not overly proud, not in a superficial way, but I think there's just a difference from how they approach things. You know what I mean? And I think as Americans, we might project a lot. A lot of our political behavior is projection, almost like maybe we're thinking we don't belong there or we don't come from there. So we always have to prove it by being overly right wing. And we always got to be talking about who's from there and who have rights and who don't and whose forefathers built this country and who didn't. It's like, yo, shouldn't it be clear? Shouldn't it be clear already? Why do we have to, you see what I mean? Why do we have to go through these hurdles every fucking year about this? When you know who you are, you don't even have to discuss it. Yeah, 60,000 years for indigenous. Yeah, exactly. 250-year-old nation flexing history. Exactly. It's true, man. And again, I'm only saying this so we can reflect on this shit, and move past it, get better. But if we don't say some of these things, if we don't tell the truth, man, we're going to be finished. We are going to be finished. You can walk on a base of Switzerland and the houses have your heart built on it. Cozy. Yeah, Switzerland is fly. Switzerland is fly. And it's just about treating people decent and caring for each other, man. That makes the world of a difference, in how things go when you leave your home. That makes a world of a difference, I'm just telling you, there's something we're not doing right in the U.S. and we need to learn from it like really fast. Somebody said it's because our latest administration kicks it with the Eastern Europeans. Yeah, they kicking it with Putin and shit. You know what I'm saying? He loves Putin. He loves the prostitutes too. You know what I'm saying? It's like the gangsters and mafia, like the wrong types from certain places. Trump is cool with anybody that exploits people and is corrupt. That's who and it doesn't matter where you're from. If Idi Amin was alive today, I'm sorry to say this, but Trump would love him. Trump would love it. You know what I'm saying? Trump would be like, yeah, that's right. We need another Idi Amin, man. I know it's controversial. Some people think Idi Amin was great, but I think he was a damn tyrant. Now, you know what I'm saying? Anytime you want to knock up other people just like you from your own country over the head with a stick, something's not right about that. We need to be a little more fair than that. You know what I'm saying? But look, Trump is he's basically doing the same thing. He's running the U.S. into the ground. He is Idi Amin. He's the reincarnation of Idi Amin. Trump is, man. You know what I'm saying? We don't even need to like up Trump's shit. He's just like fucking Idi Amin. What the He's a goddamn, you know what I'm saying? Gaddafi was better, man. At least Gaddafi wasn't running his own. He was oppressive, but Trump is oppressive and he's running the country into the ground. Like he's finding new ways to fuck up. You know what I'm saying? It's like, damn, it's crazy, man. The world, people are going to, I guess there's enough can't be said about it, but when Trump is out of office, that's when it starts. That's when it starts. People are going to, they're going to remember this man as the most hated man in United States history. Every place where his name is mentioned is going to be ripped off of the walls. Every place where his picture is there, it's going to be ripped down and burned. You know, there will be nothing left of Trump's image in the United States of America when he's gone. Everyone, they are going to go on a wall of shame. It's going to be a reminder down in the motherfucking Washington, D.C., just like they have, you know, these monuments and shit like that. It's going to be a monument of shame with Pam Bondi's name written on it, Trump, you know, name, you know, all of these people that did this shit, Elon Musk. It's going to be like looking back in time in history and be like, yeah, we had our Planet of the Apes moment, and here it is. Pam Bondi, Trump, Elon Musk, you know, yeah, they took us through this shit, and it's people are going to remember this shit. You know, this regime is going to go down in infamy, and they will not survive. Like they're leaving the country. Elon Musk will not stay in the United States of America. Peter Thiel, he won't stay. I'm telling you, they're going to be gone. And everyone who helped them, they're going to leave too, because they don't want to be stuck with the American people after the American people get rid of these people. You know, they don't want to be stuck. They're just, their names will mean nothing in the United States anymore. You know, if you got the last name Hegseth, that's going to be a bad name. Bondi, you know, these are all bad names, and you definitely ain't going to have the name Trump unless you've been actively out there dissing his ass with that name. Nah, people are going to be like, you know, with those kind of names, they're going to be like, you know, Hegseth, your last name is Hegseth? What the fuck? Yeah, so just be happy you're not related to any of them, you know, because then you don't have to live with that shame, you know. But in any case, folks, I'm going to be out of here. I appreciate everybody for coming out. I think I just had a little fun today. You know, let me leave you guys with this. It's not over until it's over, but it all has to be released and revealed from the Epstein files before the country is going to be free, if you ask me. And there's been enough going on with Epstein and with the Trump administration and with Bondi and them hiding the Epstein files, going out there acting like they want to release it. And it's obvious they're basically partners of Epstein. It's obvious at this point. So they don't have any intention on releasing it and showing that, but it will come out. And so I'm gonna leave you all with this one right
Stories
here.
about Jeffrey Epstein and the government response
Appreciate
to
everybody.
his case, but this one is a
Peace,
real
y'all.
doozy. The Miami Herald's Julie Brown, who you might have seen on this program, has an absolute bombshell about how the Epstein files show there were an unusual number of bags of shredded documents removed from Epstein's jail just days after his death. That alone is suspicious. A corrections officer, though, was so concerned that they called the secret FBI tip line and said they'd, quote, never seen this amount of bags of shredded documents coming out to be put in the dumpster. The officer was concerned about the after action group that came in to look into the death. Just to tell you how this works, usually investigative teams do not immediately shred documents and evidence, they collect evidence. The FBI records state that the caller found it, quote, suspicious that an after-action team charged with investigating would be shredding huge amounts of paperwork. That is an understatement. A corrections officer later wrote a memo to the FBI saying you might want to investigate why those employees are destroying records. And jails sometimes use inmates for certain physical tasks. The Herald reporting an inmate at the jail was told to take bags of shredded material to the rear gate, throw them in a dumpster. The inmate said, reportedly, quote, they're shredding everything. On top of that, the files show that there were whistleblower accounts, a letter to a judge, and U.S. attorneys' staff who also viewed this as suspicious at the very least, a potential crime or obstruction at most. Molly and Maya are back with us.
All right, y'all.
When you hear
There you have
that
it.
the feds and investigators are the ones doing the shredding, what does that tell you?
It tells you that they fucking corrupt and that this administration is the Epstein files. It is the Epstein administration. They've just been running for their life, covering it up the entire time. They had plans on taking America this way. and we got to get them the fuck out of the United States of America. All right, y'all. I appreciate y'all. Peace. Fuck Donald J. Trump. Fuck Trump. Impeach Trump. Impeach Trump. Release the Epstein files.
Make up my mind. Is it worth the dime?
One.
Do I have to take a minute just to make it mine? Life's never fair, but don't listen to the TV. Go out and take a listen to the streets with the people in the slums and the homeless bums with degrees and degrees sitting under a tree. It's not easy in the world for the poor man, the one that brought you to reality. See, they don't want you to know about the black sheep, leaving 7 rows to the 12 families all around the globe with an ancient code. Is it really asking a lot to say a debt old? Cause we sitting on the earth looking back at extinct, and I'm standing on some ground that's about to sink. I ain't scared for a minute, I ain't about to blink, but I documented for the world what I see and think. Feel we on the call and up and we on the break. All Congress gonna do is waste paper and ink. Vote or die, you voted and you'll die. You can have it both ways, can't say it's a lie. You can march all you want, but they playing you wrong. They only understand war, it's the same old song. They want war, all they really want is a war. Diversionary tactic to make the big score. The diamonds in the morning, you know they want more, but they wanna keep you low, so they manifest the war. War, all they really want is a war. Diversionary tactic to make the big score. The diamonds in the morning, you know they want more, but they wanna keep you low, so they manifest the war. Like a lotus coming out of the mud with colors, I create envy in those with power but jealous. I unify the poor with my song, the hell with the others. Descended the way they treat indigenous brothers, cause I understand we link forever. They try to hate us even though that we keep it together. I'm not talking about controlling the air or the weather, I'm talking about maintaining the truth, the high endeavor. A rebel drops bombs in the midst of trouble. The free world counterattack and now there's double, but nature gets the shit in the way to settle. If you stop the machines for a minute you might hear, but they won't cause the TV's whisper in the ear. And capitalism has eyes that don't tear, and they cloud up and get crazy and won't steer. And like an ab, it's hard to get an ass to listen. Living like this is like living in prison. It's hard to keep hope when you're living in prison. The spiritual thoughts, so yes, the mental prison. The outside, yes, it's got to get through. Something's gotta die, so something here can live. Your life is nothing if you got nothing to give. Keeping the spiritual, yes, disguised as religion. Controlling your mind, the mental prison. They want war, all they really want is a war. Diversionary tactic to make the big score. The diamonds in the morning, you know they want more, but they wanna keep you low, so they manifest the war. War, all they really want is a war. Diversionary tactic to make the big score. The diamonds in the morning, you know they want more, but they wanna keep you low, so they manifest the war.
Politicians ripping off everyday people. Man, who we gonna call to straighten this up, bro? The children of the light. Yeah.
And what do I see? A last space to freedom one day, that's me. I could chill with my ancestors and my family, cause even though I made mistakes, they still accepted me. Through my life, I had to try to understand the way it is. It's hard telling your kids what life really is, cause it hurts and you want much better for them, but you gotta let them know what's out there for them. So you can say you have one word, one voice to light, so you can make things right, cause the times that we live in are no place for humanity. Not you, not me, the human race family. We need to change how we think it's the range. It's not right putting people in in bars and chains. It's messed up cause in our veins the blood's the same. But some got different means, others got different aim. Some wanna propagate hate through racism. Others wanna sell pussy in the basement. Some settle for drugs, even the basement. But these things in life could never be a replacement for love, understanding, knowledge, and wisdom. Cause only truth tellers make it to the kingdom. Not the kingdom that you drive through in a Rolls Royce, but the place you get to lifting every voice and sing.
Into the true trend of the light. It's time to lift your souls high up and fight. There's some doing wrong and they don't know right. When everybody's embracing the light. Into the true trend of the light. It's time to lift your souls high up and fight. There's some doing wrong and they don't know right. When everybody's embracing the light.
The earth spirit is broke and decimated. All that bullshit is now outdated. It's hard as they get. Even if you catch AIDS, please don't quit. Cause the world needs you to stand up and do what's right. Even if you're gonna die, go out with a fight. God made you to live and God should choose how you die. But if I told you that was the case, it'd be a lie. Cause man-made has been up to no good once again. All of this killing under the guise of government. At this point, I believe it's pure warfare. Some get welfare, others get no care. People put in the war that's way over there. But don't give a damn about the poor right here. Please, young kids, listen to me, hear me when I say the world ain't right. Listen, don't be prey. Stay away from negativity and stay educated. Excel in class and last stay dedicated. And your family, Lord, even if they wrong. Cause the truth could change the whole world if that's strong. Stand up for what's right, don't sit for what's wrong. Help the ones that don't have enough to come along. You can do it, but you can't do it all alone. Every plan in life must have a backbone. So get your shit together and work for you. But don't be another fool with no clue. Cause the earth spirit is broken and decimated.
It's time to lift your souls high up and fight. There's some doing wrong and they don't know right. When everybody's embracing the light. Into the true trend of the light. It's time to lift your souls high up and fight. There's some doing wrong and they don't know right. When everybody's embracing the light.
The earth spirit is broke and decimated. All that bullshit is now outdated. The earth spirit is broke and decimated.